Just glad to have lots of people interested in what's going on in the district, and we'd love to have you here anytime. We can get more chairs if we have to. Okay, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to approve, accept the table 2.03, which is the travel policy. And yes.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item 2.03 to be brought back to the next meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can I just ask the reason why you'd like to do that?
Me?
Yeah.
Because there's some language in there that apparently needs to be reworded, especially when it comes to Utah and Idaho border towns. Yes. So,
Okay.
it's just minor stuff.
Any other?
Nothing significant. No personal agenda.
All right, any other discussion?
Yes.
All in favor of approving the agenda with the exclusion of item 2.3, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Item 1.4 is input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, tonight we have many, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. No action may be taken upon matter raised. Do we have anyone who wishes to make public comment that is not related to item 2.1? Right. If there is no one that wishes to make public comment related to any other item, we will take all of the public comments during that agenda item. Okay. All right, item number 1.5 is recognition of Coach Todd Mulkey being named Coach of the Year by the USA Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association, along with the recognition of the spring school boys and girls cross country teams for winning state in 2019.
It's quite an honor to introduce this young man. And we have Mr. Sean Taylor here to give a little spiel about this awesome recognition for one of our great employees and coaches in our district.
I need to speak at this.
Go for it.
All right. Good evening. Just wanted to recognize Coach Mulkey for his great accomplishments. As Ms. Dastrup said, he was nominated and received the Coach of the Year for Nevada by USA Track and Field Coaches Association, and in true Coach Mulkey fashion, he didn't want to come and accept without having his team acknowledged. So thanks, Coach, for having your kids here as well. And so we wanted to bring you guys up and say congratulations.
You guys gonna keep him?
Todd, where'd you grow up at?
Just west of Minnesota.
Are you saying in a better state?
Yeah, we were in North Dakota. Actually, I know some of you guys like to talk about the academic awards too. And this was the first year we have 51 actually athletes that are competing on the team. And we only had 1 week where we had a couple of kids that were on the probation list. And so this was the first year I think we had nobody was ineligible for one of the races. So. Also, Kendra was finalist for the Gatorade Runner of the Year this year as well, so we have that. So some of the girls, I think the girls have won 3 in a row now, and 3 of the last 4, and the boys have won 3 of the last 4 too. So been pretty successful. Had some great athletes. Thank you. Good job, coach.
Everyone knows that Mr. Malky and I kind of grew up in the district together. We started the same year, a couple weeks apart. So
It's 2 days.
2 days. Sorry, blew up. And he's got the coolest first name ever.
All right, any comments? All right, well, I will make a comment because Mr. Malky has coached several of my children, not just in cross country, but in math counts. And we've got some really good coaches in our district, but Mr. and Mrs. Malky are 2 of the best we've got. They inspire athletes to not just be great at what they do, but to, their sport, but to be great people. And I just really appreciate that. I watched Mr. Malky coach Rosemary so she could win a $50 gift card at a basketball game. Yes, Rose hasn't played a lot of basketball, but he was there for one of his kids, and he can coach anybody to do anything. I truly believe that, because she won the $50 gift card, and she went out there and wasn't even sure what to do with that basketball at the beginning, but there she won it. She made all of her shots. So I really appreciate what Mr. and Mrs. Malky do for our kids, and like I say, not just in sports, but in everything. They are really great coaches, great teachers, and great examples to our youth, and I really appreciate that as a mom and as a school board member. So thank you. Item number 2.1 is review and discuss possible approval of moving Spring Creek schools to an alternate schedule for possible action. Okay. We have a presentation, first of all, and cross-country team, thank you. You're welcome to stay, but thank you.
All right, so I do have several copies of the survey results. I emailed them. Did you guys get copies? Do you need extra copies to go through as we go through it? Okay, well, if anyone in the audience would like a copy of the survey results, we have all of the questions on all of the answers right here. Those there. Has notes, sorry. All right. Hello and welcome here tonight. I am Daphne Gurley, and I am here with a few other parents. We are here as parents to present you with information and a survey conducted by the Spring Creek area PTAs and PIA. The survey was sent out via email, text, and phone notice through the school district system, as well as shared on social media. The first few pages of the survey were pro and cons that many have found through our own research. We wanted there to be informed responses, so we did provide references to the studies, and we also questioned a few other surrounding school districts on their 4-day school weeks and how they I lost the word. Sorry. And how they I lost my spot, I'm sorry. But their answers were also included. There are around 3,000 students in the Spring Creek area schools, and we received 1,767 responses. Nearly 78% said a 4-day school week was in the best interest of their student. And those responses from school IP addresses, such as teachers, admins, and staff members, 120 voted for the 4-day and 42 voted for the 5-day model. Before we get into the survey results, we do want to let you know this was just an informal survey to gain feedback. There's been a lot of talk of it since Wendover and Carlin have both been able to go to this model starting in the fall. So we just wanted to gain community feedback and see what the community feels like in Spring Creek, how they could benefit or not benefit from a 4-day school week. It's mostly here just to present information and what the community wants. So now we'll take a minute and go through the survey answers. The first question was, what school does your child or children attend? And we were able to choose multiple answers on that one. So we had 21% said Spring Creek Elementary, 29 said Liberty Peak, 16.86 for Sage, 43 for the middle school, and 36 for the high school.
Do we have any way to throw that up there? From our,
If they run the drive, we do. Yeah. They put it on.
it's on board docs.
Yeah, you put a board docs. Bring it up, Judy. Just change it. Oh, it's good then. I'll get it up there.
Okay, perfect. We asked everyone if they're aware of the pros and cons and information presented on the 4-day school week. We wanted to make sure that people actually went through and read the information that we provided them. 99.65% said they were aware of the pros and cons from the information provided. Please review the current 4- and 5-day Elko County School District calendars. We provided that address to look at it. Choose which calendar you feel is in the best interest of your student. 77.5, so 78% said the 4-day school week. That was 1,343 answers. The 5-day model was 22.41% at 388 answers. Do you feel a 4-day school week will increase quality time with your family? 78.3% said yes, and 21.7% said no. How do you feel moving to a 4-day school week would impact your child? Positively, we had 63.03% at 1,081 answers. Remain the same at 20%, 345 answers, and negatively at 16.85% at 289 answers. The Spring Creek 4-day. How do you feel a 4-day week would affect your child attendance? Positively, I believe we would miss fewer days with 62.09%. Remain the same as 33.64%. Negatively is 4.26%. If you need childcare on Fridays, please choose the times that best describe your needs. 7 a.m. to noon was 1%. Noon to 6 p.m. was 0.53%. All day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. was 13.33%, and typically do not need care on Fridays was 85.04%. That one I found particularly interesting. Please review the current, and then here we have all of the same questions broken down by school. And so we did this to kind of see where all of the schools fall. For the 4-day week, Spring Creek Elementary was 77.98% in favor, and 22 of the 4-day week, and 22.02% was in favor of the 5-day school week. Liberty Peak, 82, almost 83% for 4-day, 17% for a 5-day. 73.29% for Sage was in favor, and 26 was in favor of a 5-day. Spring Creek Middle School, 82.26% was in favor of a 4-day, and 17% in favor of a 5-day. And Spring Creek High School was 75% in favor of a 4-day, 24.8% in favor of a 5-day. All the pros and cons, 100 to anywhere from 99.6 to 100% as well. Aware of all the pros and cons per school. This page is just going over they answered question 1, who answered to what school. So we are on question 2, I believe, but it's broken down by school. If you go all the way to the
mouse too, you can.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so these ones aren't in there. The ones that are broken down by school, I only have the.
It's in a different section. So we have to switch to the other document.
Switch to the other.
Perfect. All right, good question. I'm trying to touch the screen. Used to a touch screen. So it says, how do you feel moving forward on a 4-day school week would impact your child? Spring Creek Elementary, almost 65% said positively, 19 remain the same, and 16% negatively. Liberty Peak, 65.14% positively, 22 remain the same, and 12 for negatively. Sage, 59.66% for positively, 19.66 remain the same, and 20.69 negatively. Spring Creek Middle School, 69.4% positively, 17.75 remain the same, and 12.85 negatively. And Spring Creek High School, 63.36 positively, 17.44 remain the same, and 19.2 is negatively. How do you feel a 4-day school week would affect your child's attendance? 64% of Spring Creek Elementary said positively, 31.62 said remain the same, and 4% said negatively. Liberty Peak said 66.33% said positively, 30.68 said remain the same, and 2.99% said negatively. Sage Elementary, 56.21 said positively, 30% said remain the same, and 2% said negatively. Oh, I'm sorry, I went down a line. 5% said negatively, 38% said remain the same. Middle school, 67.37% said positively, 30.37% said remain the same, 2.25% said negatively. And the high school, 62.08% said positively, 33.44 remain the same, and 4.48 said negatively. If you need childcare on Fridays, please choose the times. 0.5% of Spring Creek Elementary said from 7 a.m. to noon. 0.27% said noon to 6 p.m. 18% said 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And 80.27% said typically does not need care on Fridays. Liberty Peak is 1.79% for 7 to noon, 0.6% for noon to 6, and 15.14% for all day. 82.47 did not need care on Fridays. Sage 1.72 for 7 a.m. to noon, 1.38 for noon to 6, 17.59 for all day, and 79.31 for does not need care. Middle school 1.33 for 7 to noon, 0.53 for noon to 6, 8.37 for all day, and 89.77 for does not need care at all. High school is 0.96 for 7 a.m. to noon, none for noon to 6 p.m., and 8.17 for all day, with the 90.87 typically does not need care on Fridays. And lastly, how do you feel a 4-day week would increase quality time with your family? Spring Creek Elementary, 79.73% it would, 20.27% said no. Liberty Peak, 84.03% said it would increase quality time, 15.97% it would not. 72.07 from Sage Elementary said it would increase quality time, 27.93 said no. Middle school, 81.54% said yes, and 18.46% of the middle school said it would not increase quality time. High school, 75.80% said it would increase quality time, with 24.20 saying it would not.
Daphne, were you able to differentiate between Elko IP addresses and Spring Creek IP addresses in that survey?
So we have all of the IP addresses.
So you'd have to go through them.
You'd have to go through manually and figure out if it's Elko or Spring Creek. but we did only send it out to Spring Creek families, and
Except for social media.
Except for social media got out,
Because I
yeah.
can take it in Elko.
but we also do have parents who work in Elko, so if they took it at work, it will show up as an Elko IP address. There are flaws to our survey. It is not 100% bulletproof. It is not a presidential election, so to speak.
Right, so you can't get rid of idiots like me that took it, right?
But we do have,
I moved to table action on this. I want to hear everybody tonight, but I moved to table action on this until we can get some more solid data, especially if the school district would be willing to put together a plan that would cover lots of different aspects, Chartwell, a bunch of, I mean, you're going to hear the questions tonight, but
there are going to be a lot. So with our 4-day school week, some things that we covered, there are many pros and cons. There are definitely cost savings, reduced absenteeism, and reduced absenteeism of teachers and students being the top pros. When I spoke to Pershing County 10 years later after they have switched to the 4-day school week, their biggest cost saving is still in transportation. Their schools now run off of solar, so the utility savings aren't necessarily there because they got solar from BlackRock Solar Company, but their transportation costs are still night and day difference. They save a ton of money just
how many schools are in Pershing County?
They have 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school, so there's 4.
Does Pershing County have a block schedule?
So they do all of their classes for high school and middle school in one day. They don't do AV. So, but the high school, they have 7 different classes each day.
I have a concern with block scheduling. Some student that has Tuesday and Thursday, for example, if they're not going to come back till another Thursday, Tuesday, that's 4 days away from the classroom.
That is a long time.
Yes.
Is it Wells do block schedule?
I believe so.
Pretty sure.
And when speaking to, we reached out to many of the 4-day school districts. We spoke to White Pine County, and they had some very interesting things to say. When they first went, they had huge cost savings and a great reduction in absenteeism. Right now, they're facing a little bit of difficulty because some mines have closed, and they also have a charter school open up, so they've lost a lot of students and a lot of funding to those. But even with those differences, they said they would never go back to a 5-day. They absolutely love the 4-day, and they wouldn't even consider going back to a 5-day at this point.
The people you spoke to, who was that?
Paul?
Johnson?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you have to know a little bit of history. I wish there were some White Pine people here that people lost jobs there.
Yeah.
Teachers lost jobs
Teachers
because
lost
DSA went to the charter school rather than to the school district. So that's another aspect of the charter schools on 5 days weeks ago, right?
I believe so. So when speaking to White Pine, we asked a little bit about their reasonings for going to a 4-day years ago. They noted it was not for financial reasons, but for quality of service, like attracting teachers to their area, not having subs in classes on Friday, so there was more taught by those qualified to teach in those subjects. It was hard to find a substitute who could explain calculus, so when they did have substitutes, they were watching movies in class. And so yes, you were getting seat time, but were you actually instructing during that seat time? So they would end up doing movies or something else for those reasons. They noted their financial issues are absolutely not related to the 4-day, but that the new charter school coming in, and they were adamant about this point. They did a follow-up survey a few years after going to the new model and noted 80% still wanted to stay with the 4-day model and would be very unlikely to ever go back. They did not appear to cut hourly employees, but changed their schedules to 4 10-days. They noted kids are still in class the same amount of time, so there's no loss of learning.
What are their star ratings in White Pine?
I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head, but I could go to Nevada Report Card and find
They're
it.
not good, by the way.
Yeah, it's 1.
I also did speak to Pershing County, and Pershing County is better than White Pine, and they have they're always in the top, if not the top graduation rate. I believe it was 2 years ago they had 100% graduation rate, which yes, it is a smaller school than Elko County, but still, they graduating 100% of kids with a 60% poverty level is a pretty good feat. We researched larger schools that have gone to 4-day, 1 week being 4-day school week, one being the 27J schools of North Denver, Colorado. The district has over 17,000 students, including 12 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, 4 high schools, and beginning in August 2018, 27J made the transition to a 4-day school week. They did a survey after the transition, and nearly 5,000 parents, students, staff, and community members participated in the survey. The survey showed that 78% of the respondents viewed the change to a 4-day school week as favorably, and from their website they noted that moving to a 4-day school week is a great recruiting tool for attracting and hiring new teachers and retaining current teachers to our students. Moving to a 4-day school week improves the school culture, reduces absences for students and staff. Moving to a 4-day school week boosts student and teacher morale. Moving to a 4-day school week allows teachers more time for planning and collaboration to prepare and support our students for their learning. And moving to a 4-day school week saves money that can be invested into serving and supporting our students and their learning. A large decrease in teacher burnout has also been noted. Teachers I have personally spoken to reported using contract time after school, as well as being able to come in on Fridays to prep, and still having 2 days off to themselves has positively affected them. According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, from their 2007 to 2008 beginning teacher longitudinal study, 17% of teachers left teaching by their second year. Also, in their 2012 to 13 teacher follow-up survey on teacher attrition and mobility, about 51% of the public school teachers who left teaching in 2012 to 13 reported that the manageability of their workload was better in their current position than teaching. So with the 4-day school week, they can obviously use more time and manage their workload easier, and then help retain those wonderful teachers that we do have. Some of the cons that we have heard is that it can be more difficult for students from low-income families and students with special needs to adjust to the school. Typical housing in Spring Creek, it's the wealthiest town in Nevada, and earns an average of $19.908 a year per household. Spring Creek also has the state's lowest poverty level at 3.4 in comparison to the 14.9% of Nevada's population. 15.1% of Americans nationwide live below the poverty line, and Elko County itself has the lowest poverty rate at 11.2%, and that was also in the USA Today article. The biggest concern for low-income families that we heard was food for the extra days off we have. We've reached out to Fish and a few other programs, as well as Community in Schools. And currently in Spring Creek, Communities in School does provide weekend bags full of food for a number of students. I didn't get an exact number when I spoke to her, but I was around 100, I want to say. And in the backpacks, they get 6 meals. So we also reached out to Fish, and there are food banks, food grants, kitchen. Fish has emergency food, as well as Communities in Schools also has emergency food. And they can apply for backpacks at any time. And overall, I want to say she said it was around 1,200 backpacks a month that Communities in Schools provides to Elko County. And on weekends, Fish hands out food anytime on Friday, and on weekends from 9 to 12:30. The hardest part with Fish was transportation to go get the food from Fish, especially because you do live in Spring Creek. So I don't know if that's where maybe Communities in Schools, but that's something to maybe look at, ways that we can help the small amount, but still the amount of families that would be affected by this. As for special needs children, adapting to any change is going to be more difficult for this population, and special care does need to be taken on how best to transition them. Utilizing research, maybe reaching out to other districts and what works best for their different needs, and incorporating this into their IEPs. I'm sure since the district has approved this for other schools, there are models and best practices that can be used to help transition this population, but special care does need to be taken in consideration with them. And we have also heard a lot of concerns about moving to a 4-day week as well. We have tried to research our best into those. Childcare is the most popular, and like I said, the most interesting point of the survey that I found was that 85% of Spring Creek would not need childcare on a Friday, and broken down by schools, because people said, well, 80%, that's all high school and middle school kids. But when you look at the elementary schools, it was right around between 79 and 80% that each elementary school would not need childcare. But if they do need childcare, we do have the Boys and Girls Club coming into Spring Creek. There are a few daycares and things like that. And
When is that Boys and Girls Club scheduled to open, do you know?
So it's currently operating out of Spring Creek Elementary in the afternoons and Liberty Peak Elementary in the mornings. So they are currently operating out there now, and they could continue to do that until they broke ground. They were waiting, last I heard, they were waiting for, I'm going to get this wrong, either Wells or Wendover Boys and Girls Club to be built before they could start building on this one. So they had to finish a project before they could start a project, but I believe they're going to start building on that this year. But don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure.
Rough estimate is great.
Rough estimate.
They're a private entity.
They are private. They're a 501, or I'm going to get the number wrong, but they're a nonprofit, and they are
I'm just saying, you should be
$250.
careful about mentioning
Okay.
a business and exclusively looking at them to provide that opportunity, I guess.
I wasn't meaning like exclusively. I guess I was just looking at different options.
All the options.
So they are one option as well as others. Many have worried that juvenile delinquencies would increase on Fridays if the kids are not occupied in school. We pulled stats from the juvenile probation regarding crime rates in the summer when the children are off of school, and found that crime rates actually went down in the summer of June, July, and August. This is also very interesting because the kids are able to run around free for 7 days a week, and they're not occupied in school for 4 of them, and the crime rates actually went down.
Less access to their drug dealer.
I don't have a comment for that. I'm so sorry. So a point to review is the validity of a survey. We did not hire an outside company to validate every single answer, but we did look at some trends from the survey that should be noted. A duplicate report pulled all IP addresses from the survey. If there was an answer from the same IP address, one for 4-day and one for 5-day, we kept that in the duplicate survey. So the results that I read you are not from the duplicate survey. That was from the survey as a whole. So when just looking at the duplicates report, from there we can take out 103 who voted for 4-day and deemed them invalid. Not that they took the survey twice, but there could have been a possible duplicate. And for error's sake, we're just going to take them out in the duplicate survey. I know for me personally, when my husband and I moved here a year ago, we lived with friends for 2 months while we closed on our house because we didn't want to get a rental for 2 months and then have to move again. In that situation, there would have been 2 answers from the same IP address.
Were families of low socioeconomic status able to access that survey if they didn't have access to the internet?
So
Was it provided in paper form?
we did have paper copies, but we didn't receive any back.
So families in poverty might not have gotten to answer this.
It could be. Not that they took the survey. 19 were deleted who voted for 5-day. Another item that was interesting was out of the 1,249 of the 1,767 total results came back on the very first day. So like I said, we did the blast. We sent out emails, phone messages, phone calls. So on that very first day, we had the majority of our results, which was 1,249. The remaining results of 518 trickled in from January 16th until the 31st. And there were 565 people total that left their info were for the 4-day, and 76 left their info who were for the 5-day. And then just for argument's sake, we wanted to run some scenarios, just saying someone hopped on in their car and went house to house to different IP addresses, and say they took the survey 500 times. If we took out 500 for the 4-day just for argument's sake, there were 1,731 who voted for 4 or 5-day, 36 skipped, and minus another 500 taken out for 4-day hypothetically leaves 1,231 total votes. Taking out the 500 for 4-day off the original was 1,343 4-day voters and 843, which leaves 843 for the 4-day, and the same 388 for the 5-day would make it so 68.5% still would want a 4-day. So if we took out 500 of those votes, canceled them out, just said 500 were invalid, we would still have 68.5 for a 4-day and 31.5 for a 5-day. The survey was put together and distributed to gain feedback from the community. Although presented by parents, we wanted to be the voice for many, not just ourselves. When all is said and done, after researching and discussing with people, I feel like the survey speaks for what the parents want for their children. 77.59 feel it is in the best interest for their children, and I feel that should be taken into great consideration. This is what the community majority wants and feels what is best for their children. I want to thank you for your time and hope that the information was helpful in your consideration for the next steps.
But only high socioeconomic status responded, not low.
I don't think you know that.
We can't prove that. We didn't ask for their income on the survey.
So one of the flaws of the survey then, right?
It could be a flaw of the survey, but again, we can't say that no one from low income took it because we didn't ask that question.
What do you figure the rate of return was?
So there are right around 3,000 students, and we got 1,767 responses. We weren't expecting 3,000. Personally, I was only expecting between 1,000 and 2,000. You figure the average household has 2.6 children, and I personally have 3 children. So I wasn't going to take it 3 times because I have 3 children. I only took it once. But there are so many factors into that. The divorced parents, did both households take it? That could account for more taken at different schools and so forth.
So when you did this survey, you targeted really just the parents, is that correct?
Yes.
So,
But we did have teachers and admins and staff did take it from school IP addresses, and that was 120 for the 4-day and 42 for the 5-day. But we did only put it out like as a general to the parents in the community.
so you don't really have a survey for the administration?
Correct.
Teachers.
We weren't sure how to approach that, so we figured we'd get community feedback first, and then.
So is your plan then?
So we forgot the T and PTA.
That's my question, please, Mr. Zeisen.
I'm sorry.
What is the question?
I was trying to jump in.
So my question is it your feeling, or is this what you want to do? Do you want to go back and do more data research? I personally would love to hear from the administration and know what the admin feels about it and what teachers feel about it in your community. I really think you need to know that in order for this to work, because I think you have to have, especially the teachers behind it, and certainly the administration, in order for this to actually work for you guys out there in Spring Creek.
And we did ask them to take the survey, but we didn't have a specific like teacher-only survey. So we did ask for their input on that as well. We didn't just forget the teachers and PTA.
So is the feeling of the PTA that they want to do more research and come back then? Or did you want the board to make a decision this evening on?
I wanted to present you with your information and see what the board wanted to go from there. I'm not an educator, I am a parent, and I also do not run a school board or school district. So I wanted to get feedback from the community, and that's who I would like to represent tonight. And going from there, I would love to do more research. If the board feels that they need more research, I would be more than happy to advocate and continue to do that. But tonight here, my position is just standing from the community as a parent and presenting it to.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
One thing I would like you to investigate a little bit, with a higher populated school on a block schedule, because I taught at Elko Junior High in Adobe. We had students coming in from Spring Creek that would put almost 2 points on the GPA. And I quizzed some of them, why? Because I knew we weren't that much easier. They said they couldn't do the block scheduling. And that's with the regular block scheduling, not with losing 4 days on the weekends. I don't know how you're going to do a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, how you're going to configure it. I'd like to know, because going from, like I said, a Thursday, then you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, the next class. Especially if the kids are having trouble in class, like math. It's almost a new year every time they come to school.
Absolutely, and that is something to take into consideration. Like I said, I am not a teacher. When I was in high school, I did both block schedule, and I also had all the classes in the same day. And for me personally, it was way easier to have all the classes in the same day. I did not like the block schedule, and I struggled with block schedule. So I do absolutely see your concern with that. And that, I feel like, is definitely something geared more towards the teachers and the administration to be able to answer those kinds of questions, because that's where their area of expertise is.
I was going to say, Spring Creek tends to be higher as far as test scores.
When I looked at the Nevada report card for them, it did.
And it would be left up to the administration and school to make that decision on their schedules. That's
And
their job.
That is definitely something I do recommend, is taking a look at the new schedule, if you do choose to go to this, and figuring out, okay, what can we tweak to make this transition easier? Do we need to give these kids more breaks? Or do we leave it exact the same and just stick 45 minutes on the end of the day? Kind of evaluate the best use of the minutes.
Mr. Pearson, is it, Wells is on a block schedule, aren't they?
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe Mr. Taylor can speak to that because he was there and might be able to answer your question.
Well, it's not just that, it's, you're comparing apples to oranges. When you're comparing Springford to Wells,
Amen.
you've got a whole bunch of things that go in there because smaller towns and schools have altogether different absentee rates and everything else that you don't run into with a more populated school. And so I'd like to see you consider schools of the same population approximately in the state that are doing block scheduling and the same type of block scheduling that we're doing, because I know some schools do block scheduling, but you do one semester and 1 year in one semester instead of semester and a semester. You take twice as many classes one semester to make up for the year. So there's all different kinds of block scheduling, but I'd like to see some data about what's going on with similar sized schools and that are on block schedule.
The only district, well, the main district that I found that was at least larger, because most of the communities that do a 4-day are smaller, is the school district in Colorado, but I did not ask if they are block scheduled, but I can find it out.
I know we have several administrators here tonight, and I appreciate seeing you all here. And so, Mr. Taylor and Mr. Reddick, I know you guys would have, a lot to say over the schedule. So would you two be willing to come up and talk to us about potential schedules? Because I know that was a question I received a lot too from people was, what would the schedule look like? Would we stay with the block? Would we do something else? What are the potential schedules?
Do you want me to stay up here or sit down?
Whichever you want to do now.
I'll sit in case there's more questions.
So I'll answer the previous question. The reason that we went to a 8-period block in Wells, the reason we went to an 8-period block in Wells was for credit attainment purposes. The biggest glaring issue that we saw was students not attaining credits and students that had failed classes not being successful in the online program. So part of our rationale was to offer one more period throughout the day over a course of 2 days to get kids back in the classroom to either make up credit or earn the credits that they needed for graduation. And so that was successful for us. When I was in Wells, to speak to Mr. Fish's comment, it is drastically different. When we had a cohort of 17 seniors compared to 250 seniors now in Spring Creek, but there is, I think we came up with 8 different possibilities at the time that we had presented. Our staff was scheduling, and the 8-period block was the one that we chose at the middle school and the high school level. A lot of the staff was excited about having that longer chunk of time with their students. For instance, science was really in support of having a 95-minute block where they could do lecture, quiz, and lab all in the same period instead of carrying over labs for multiple periods. There were others who felt like it was more beneficial to see the students every day, and it was really all about preferential treatment or opinion by the staff, and that's how we came to that determination. But we sold the 8-period day a little bit more than seeing the students every day.
If you went to a 4-day school week in Spring Creek, would that be how you do it?
That is one of the options I would present to my staff. I think it's extremely important that we get feedback from the teachers that are in the trenches every day, and are going to know what's best for their students. I analyze data and look at test scores, but I don't have that personal relationship with every student like our staff does. So I think it's really important to get their feedback on what's going to work the best for our students. But again, I think it's something that could work. Mr. Reddick and myself worked together in Reno. We came from a 8-period schedule there as well. And we were routinely a 5-star school year in and year out. We were the #1 achieving high school in Nevada for 2 years in a row when we were in Reno, and that was the schedule we used.
But on a 5-day.
5-day, yep.
But you still have 3. You came here, so.
Yeah.
So at the middle school level, block scheduling can be beneficial. I know that I proposed to our staff just in preparation for next school year, just schedule options, one of them being a 4x4 block or block scheduling. So according to the state of Nevada, we only need 59,400 minutes, 7 through 12, meaning that's about, in a 4-day school week, 413 minutes a day. And so that breaks down to about 6.8 hours of instruction per class period. My teacher, I gave them an option. My teachers have been providing us feedback. And some of the teachers that are here now don't know that, like, we have other options that we're going to present to them because in response to whether or not they liked the block schedule for what Mr. Fish has mentioned about the rotation being if they're absent on Thursday, they wouldn't actually see that student again maybe until Wednesday or Thursday of the next week, which is kind of a problem with block scheduling in general. So she mentioned the state of Colorado having a 4-day school week. One of the high schools there has what they call a hybrid schedule, meaning they see all 7 periods on bookends, meaning Mondays and Thursdays they see all 7 periods, and then on Tuesdays and Wednesdays is a modified block. I've thrown around options to try and prepare for teachers so that they can make the best decision for their students. So that it looks like they would either have odds and evens or a mix of that. You could do 8 periods in that schedule and drop like an intervention class where you add an additional support class or you add an additional intervention, not intervention, but elective or something like that. So there are multiple options in a 4-day work or school calendar that provide options or opportunities to address what Mr. Fish has brought up, being that you're going to see large gaps that students are missing. There are opportunities to go straight 7s, where you would have all of your classes in one school day. The period would look in a 413-minute school day. Your periods would be around 50 minutes. So you start getting into the threshold of whether or not, start time, pack and stack at the end, and then what happens in the middle becomes very crucial. But I have faith in my teachers that they know their students, like Mr. Taylor mentioned. They know their kids. They know what they can and can't do, and they know what they can get out of them in the given time. And so if our teachers came back and said, if the board were to decide one way or the other, I have confidence that no matter what schedule they choose, they're going to address the needs of our kids. They're going to be successful. And I have no doubt that it'll help retain our teachers, help support our teachers, whatever schedule that looks like. So that's really it. There's multiple options. So it's not just tied to a block schedule, or it's not just tied to straight 7. And I found all kinds of schedules that could probably fit.
So do you have an estimated start time and end time for the day?
So 413 minutes if we kept our start time at 7:30 a.m. So Elko County is already over the allotted seat minutes in a 5-day school week of 330, and that's at the secondary level. So we would only have to extend our school day by about 45 minutes. So we would go 7:30 to 2:45, which would give us the cushion with a 30-minute lunch or dual lunches, so that we could get all of the necessary minutes in. That's at the junior high level. I don't know how it would impact elementaries. Elementary has considerably shorter overall class times during the day, although our elementaries, I think, go longer in terms of actual, what they would call seat time. So, and I know the high school and us are pretty much similar in terms of seat time. 7 through 12 is the 330 minutes. The elementary schools, I have written down somewhere, is, so kindergarten is 120 minutes a day required by state. First and second grade is 240 minutes, and 3rd through 6th grade is 300 minutes. So I believe currently that the elementary schools are over those seat times, so they would have to adjust accordingly, but depending on how many hours or minutes they have in their schedule, as long as they met that duplicate minus the time on Friday, adding it to Thursday, they would meet it. So the potential that they're going extending, past 5 o'clock, I think is probably inaccurate. I would say if their start time stayed the same, they're extending by about what roughly we are, by about an hour. So that's a guess. I didn't look at their schedule.
There is a,
I was thinking maybe the elementary principals speak to that. Ideas.
I think it's about 45 minutes additional.
I just look at the well schedule. They start 10 minutes before we do. We started at 8:10, they started at 8 and went till 3:45, I believe. Right now, we're doing 8:10 to 2:50 for the elementary schools in Spring Creek, so add 45 minutes basically to that day.
I do know one thing, if you started playing with the minutes, I was at the Elko Junior High, I believe it was still before Adobe, and they were trying to push us into the block scheduling. And when they went through the block scheduling, we had 2 people out at Spring Creek that raised their hand and swore up and down that they were going to put in as many minutes as Elko. When they started auditing that, when they wanted to push the block scheduling, we found out we were doing a lot more minutes than Spring Creek, and it caused some dissension in the schools. I'll tell you, if we started playing with Spring Creek, going to a certain number of minutes, you're going to have Elko High School and Elko Junior High or Adobe up here wanting the same types of minutes.
So to address what Mr. Fish is talking about is the number of contact times you have with a group of students. So in a block schedule, he's not incorrect. You would lose a certain number of contact minutes based on what our current schedule is. So I've had teachers bring to us, I believe if I'm doing the math correctly, in a block schedule on a 4-day school week, our teachers would lose about 40 minutes per week, but then would gain 30 minutes of intervention time based on a proposed schedule. If we were to go to straight 7s with a modified block in the middle, so on Tuesdays and Thursdays, contact time would relatively stay close to what it is. It would be a matter of minutes. On the negative side, they would still lose some minutes of contact time. Over the course of a year, I don't know. So you'd have to balance it out towards the number of days. So 4 days obviously balances better than 5 days in terms of when you're going AB versus an ABC schedule or something like that. But specifically what he's talking about is our schedule in Spring Creek may potentially be different than what it would be in Adobe. And at Adobe, the junior high teachers there could be teaching more contact minutes versus less contact minutes with the teachers in Spring Creek.
question that I've got, Mr. Reddick, you mentioned the number of minutes that are required by the state. At the present time, I think Elko County's minutes per day is
we exceed state limits in all of our schools on contact time.
Basically by how much?
It varies by school, but I can get that data for you, but it's significant. You know, we've never gone bare minimum contact minutes anywhere in our district in my 12 years in the district.
Those differences between schools that have been mentioned under this schedule or that schedule, they're already there throughout our district.
Correct.
Irregardless of whether we're talking block schedules or 7-period schedules, those differences are already there throughout our district.
Do you have a general feeling on is your staff receptive to a 4-day school week? Have you had an opportunity to even?
There was a unofficial survey that was sent out last night, and I'll let my staff who sent that out, I'll let them speak to that. They've signed up for public comment. I actually don't know the numbers yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Sage is about 50-50.
We did not survey our staff. I think the only people on our staff that took the survey were parents.
What?
And I didn't specifically ask that question, so I can't answer that from our staff. If they filled out, they'll speak to it. I trust that they know.
71 4 or 5 day and 29 for 4-day at Spring Creek High School. There you go.
What I heard at Sage was.
It was 71% want a 5-day and 29 want a 4-day for the teachers at Spring Creek High School.
When I was at Sage on Friday, a lot of the teachers said it'd be great for me as an adult, but not good for my students.
And I think that's been a pretty general consensus from anybody that's gone to this. Personally, I think who doesn't want a 4-day work week, right? But I think it's our job as educators to try to validate what we're doing at our schools and our classrooms, et cetera. And so I think the staffs and the admin in Spring Creek are trying to do their due diligence and kind of be involved with the process as much as we can, but we're not necessarily leading the charge for the 4-day, but I think we'll all do our best to work within the confines of what we're given.
Thank you. I think we'll move on to public comment. We might ask, have more questions. So our first request is from Sandy Moon. Someone else, Sandy.
All right, I'm Sandy Moon. I'm a parent. I have 2 daughters in the district. One's a senior this year, so it won't affect her. I have a sophomore, so minimal effectiveness there. I also am a teacher at Spring Creek High School. I teach math. I'm also a softball coach out at Spring Creek High School. And I've lived in districts where there is a 4-day school week. And actually, at this point, I'm really looking at doing a master's thesis on this because I have a strong opinion and I've collected a lot of data. Some of it you might have already received. I've given it to Mr. Zeisler as well as Ms. Dastrup yesterday. I did a survey of my students along with the math teacher next door, and 75% of our students do not want a 4-day school week. They want a 5-day. They felt it would impact them, that they would be more tired, especially our athletes. There was 24% that wanted a 4-day, and there was 1% that was indifferent. And they have my surveys with a lot of good comments with concerns that they had, so I don't have those remarks. I taught in Colorado where they had a 4-day week, and I saw a lot of negative. I would much rather be in Spring Creek High School with my kids at this point, and that's why I moved back from Colorado to have my kids educated at Spring Creek High School. In those districts in Colorado, crime went up. I think a lot of you received that memo. It was a packet by 73%. Test scores went down 2.5%. Absenteeism initially went down, but then climbed. Okay. If you look at Oklahoma, I also have a document from Oklahoma, who was the first state to go to a 4-day school week. Last year, they voted at March of 2019, and then May, they finally finalized it, that they're going to mandate a 5-day week. Unless the district is a small one like Wells, okay, they have small school district, Wells, and they're meeting minimum student requirements. Why do we want minimum student success? We want the highest. Okay. I have a document that I gave to them that was from UNR that say that students that attend their university in Reno that are on a 4-day school week end up higher dropout rate from college than the ones that do a 5-day school week. Okay, so something that we need to consider, and those documents are amongst them that they can share with you. I also looked up for last year the number 1 states for education for secondary. Okay, Massachusetts was number 1. 0 districts on a 4-day school week. New Jersey, number 2, 0 districts on a 4-day school week. New Hampshire, number 3, 0 districts. Okay. Vermont, number 4, 0 districts on a 4-day school week. Connecticut was number 5, 0 districts on a 4-day school week. Then we go look at the other side. Number 50 is New Mexico, 20% or more school districts on a 4-day school week. And these are the districts, these are the states that are also greater than 20% on a 4-day school week. Colorado, which is one of the higher ones, 14. Idaho was at 26, Oregon at 39, and South Dakota was at 23. And so I think we just need to kind of look at that. Oklahoma, like I said, would be a good place to look. Why did they decide to go back to a 5-day school week mandated at the state level? They've had to have seen something over the 50 years that they've been on, started with the 4-day school week. Okay. Softball. I'm a softball coach. Okay. My teams last year, not one of my student athletes ever was on even the probation list. okay? I even have a higher standard for them. They do not play for me if they have a D. I had not one student that was a student athlete that had below a C, okay? All last season, JV and varsity. Math-wise, I think they need repetition on a consistent basis for them to have success. The more time I have with them, the more likely they're going to succeed. I'm concerned if we go with the block schedule, Monday, Wednesday, kid gets sick on Wednesday, I don't see him till the next week. Okay, so that's something that we might be able to deal with different schedules, but I still have concern of the time of contact, okay? I'm very critical. Now, like he said, as a parent, I would love to go to a 4-day week, because then I could travel with my daughter without taking a personal day as a teacher to go watch them at a state playoff or a regional playoff. I try to minimize. In the last, I taught at the JDC for 7 years for the district. I missed 1 day. I coach, so I missed a little bit more last year, but I always give instruction ahead of time, and I try to get subs that know their math stuff so that instruction continues and my kids do not suffer, because I think it's very critical as an educator to make sure that I'm taking care of my kids as well. Some of my students are over here, and they are just as important to me as my own children. And so, like I said, I could be selfish and say I want a 4-day week, and my kids are going to be out in two years, and I could go and do whatever I want. But these are just as important to me. I want the best from them. I want the best for them. As an educator, I want them to be the top school in the state of Nevada. I want to be. I set goals all the time for them, and they know it. And we're gonna achieve it this year. In the core schools, I have goals, and we're gonna achieve that. Some of the other things, the crime thing, they said it went down in the summer. The bookings went down. Crime stayed steady pretty much. If you look at June, it was just as bad as February, right there, still high. Okay, August it dipped off a little bit because that's when they start going back to school. So we got to look at those kind of things. I'm here also representing a lot of my colleagues that are over watching their students, their kids play, their personal kids play. And so I hope that we just at least look, instead of jumping into it, look at all the data before we go and make a rash decision that we'll regret. And I grew up in White Pine, and I wouldn't want to be there. Okay? So thank you.
Kate Brown is our next request.
I was hoping I didn't have to follow her. First of all, thank you.
We're gonna pause. Just because of the amount of time, we're not going to limit the content of anyone's comment, but we are going to limit you to 3 minutes. Okay, so, because I know everyone does want to go home and stuff like tonight. 3 minutes. There you go.
You're timing me. She is, yeah. Okay, first of all, thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns. My name is Kate Brown, and I am the mother of a few young children that attend elementary school in Spring Creek. What problem is this solving? Those that are missing school from extracurricular activities are those that are motivated to keep their grades up. We need to look at all children, those that are falling in the cracks, and possibly those that are at risk. Is extending the day going to increase the quality of learning, especially in the elementary level? Those children are already wiped out by the end of the day. Extending that, how are we going to go forward with that? How does this affect all district employees, bus drivers, custodians, secretaries, office staff, aides, substitute teachers? How will this affect our interactions with ELCO? How will this affect students on 504 plans, IEPs, learning disabilities, and those that are on medications? Will this negatively or positively affect student athletes with longer days and later practices? There are many unanswered questions. Are we solving problems or creating more problems? The survey that was distributed was very biased. I wanted to read a comment I came across on social media that sums it up pretty well. How do you feel is never a proper survey question. It calls for someone's emotions. The student might perform better if they attended school 7 days a week, but the question asks how someone feels about a 4-day school week for someone else. The responses are meaningless. Why not ask the kids how they feel about never having to go to school? Having community input is important. We should have more research and more information for a decision that has such a great effect on not only our Spring Creek community, but surrounding communities. We hope your decision you make today, which I'm happy to hear that it's possibly tabled, is based on the quality of education for all children and not the convenience of the community. How'd I do?
What did you say, Leanna Helmer?
Leanna, okay, sorry. Yeah.
So I'm just a parent myself. I'm Leanna Helming, and I have a kindergartner at Spring Creek Elementary this year, and I'll have another one starting in 22. So for my kids, we are at the very beginning of 13 years into this. With the number one reason sending our children to school being education, how will changing to a 4-day week school academically affect or benefit our children? How will removing 18% less days of school year affect elementary level children? Considering one major method of teaching is repetition. Repetition of hearing the alphabet, letters, sounds, days of the week. 18% less a year, that child will be exposed to that information. With an unknown schedule, we cannot fully account for time, although if we use examples from other schools, we can get close. The recommended sleep time for children is 10 to 12 hours a night for health. If our elementary school did an 8 to 3:50 schedule and each family kept about a 45-minute routine for bedtime routine, bathing, teeth brushing, reading, and child fully asleep by 7 p.m., let's use an average of 11 hours of sleep a night. That would put our children at 2 hours and 25 minutes a day to be driven or bused home, homework, free time, family time, sport time, or activity time, and time for dinner before getting ready for bed. Will that positively or negatively affect our children? I myself am a soccer coach for the youth, not high school, just for younger children. And with high school sports being very important with this decision, is the elementary child who one day will be a teen being thought of with a lack of time during the week to progress, explore, and find passion in sports with a 4-day schedule. I have a concern with my teammates being able to make it to practice with two and a half hours a day if we do the 4. If the decision is to move forward with a 4-day schedule, there could be some benefits for medical and educational purposes if traveled outside of our community. Although the child is not benefiting from the additional day available to travel, what realistically could the child be doing within our community's options as enriched programs? As of today, there's only one regular child enriched program in Spring Creek that meets every Friday during the school year. What will a typical Friday look like for our child, community, and will it be positive? As this decision is made, we trust that our children's education is put first. Thank you.
Sorry. You just come up with it.
Sorry. I'm super nervous.
She's like doing a hypothesis in my class.
Yeah, that was hard. It was hard. Okay, so I'm just going to say exactly what I kind of wrote, and then I kind of, went with you guys when we met yesterday. So my first thing is, what's the rush? Like, why are we rushing into a big decision? My other issue was kind of why weren't we postponing this issue until after the Elko Spring Creek basketball games, because a lot of our teachers and staff and students are actually there, so they don't get to be represented. So we're doing our best to kind of represent a majority of people there. What's the initial purpose of a 4-day? Is it for academics? Is it for family time? Is it for attendance? Athletics, students missing? Those were a lot of the things that were brought up, and maybe rumors. So those were some things that were brought up for athletics. I think that our athletes are probably the least of our concern if they miss Fridays or multiple days, because they're the ones that have to hold academic standings to continue to do that. Family time, some people may gain family time, but I feel like not a lot of people actually are going to benefit from that. Attendance, I don't know that moving to a 4-day week is going to stop the attendance from being an issue. And academics, like I think Spring Creek High School has done a pretty good job of being pretty strong in their academics.
One question we had was, does this affect PERS? And I know that it does affect our lunch ladies for sure. I know it might not affect me as a teacher, but it affects some of our coworkers who are vital parts of our school. I just think we need more information, which is everyone's kind of said. Another one, how many low-income families even had a chance to vote on the survey without the internet or computer access? And then what percent of Spring Creek teachers did not want the 4-day? And I did a survey, and it was 71.5% were against a 4-day, and 29% were for it. And that was about 42-ish teachers in one day and like voting on that for today. At the high school? At the high school, yeah, Spring Creek High School. Students are sending petitions around throughout the school. I mean, that's been going along as well, that kids are not all for it. So petitions are being brought at or basketball games and such. Something that somebody hasn't brought up yet is many of our students have mental health issues, and to give them 3 days to now cope with, you know, those issues. Suicide rates are already high, so I think those are things that we need to look at. From a coach's point of view, some coaches might give up their sport due to the amount of time they're going to be spending in the evenings, and then also on the 3-day weekends, which everyone else is going to enjoy with family, we're still going to be out with our teams. So we're now spending more time in the evenings with our families, and then the weekends still doing what we do, which we love to do, but it still takes away from our families. Practice will go later. Soccer, baseball, softball fields don't have access to lights, and in the fall, lights out pretty much at 5 o'clock. So we get out a little bit later. I have an IEP meeting. I might get done, I don't know, around 4. And I have an hour to practice with my team. That could be a struggle for us. And not only that, basketball practices could be pushed back later. And then not only in the high school, but PAL kids and other soccer programs and T-ball programs are going to be affected by the late starts and the availability. That is not even close. But.
Did you originally take that survey, Katie?
I did, and I originally put that I was for a 4-day. And I, after we had meetings, had wanted to go back and change it because we had gotten the survey and then we met after as a staff on our 4-day week and got a lot of more information. And I wanted to go back and change my answer, but I wasn't allowed to. So.
Got a group of students. Come on up.
3 minutes.
We won't start until your handouts come.
So we do have handouts for you guys.
Nice colors, girls, in your groups.
Thank you. I'm Jacobo. I'm Bryn Weimer, and I'm Alexis Moran. We are here representing a portion of the student body of Spring Creek High School. To start off, dear members of the board, as this has been a current topic for the community and many individuals have their own opinions on the matter, I would like to inform you of not only my opinion, but a portion of the student body at Spring Creek High School's opinion. As of Friday, February 7th, 2020, Alexis Moran, Bryn Weimer, and myself took it upon ourselves to survey students at our school. We took 271 surveys from the students, along with some surveys from teachers.
And these students were all from the ages of around 12 to around 18. So we got some opinions from not only the high school students, but some of the middle schools as well.
And to show you, these are our surveys here. And just as an example, and if afterwards you would like to go through them, you are welcome to.
So we also, as the previous speaker was saying, we were one of the, we actually did get a petition and ended up getting quite a few people to sign. We had roughly 111 people sign this petition.
And if you go through it, multiple students that had signed it were a lot of athletes at our school, which, as well as students who work and the ones who do not work or do sports.
As a result of our surveys, we had roughly 271 surveys. And we went through and counted them all up, and we had 192 students that we surveyed who said no, that they did not want this to happen. We also had roughly 92 students say that they were for it, and we had roughly 17 that were undecided.
I would like to correct those numbers. It was 161 who said no. So, you're okay. I work at Hamiko, and I get called in from after school from 2 o'clock to anywhere to 4 o'clock. I have to be there. And I am there till 10 o'clock. So in my opinion, school being out later, it would be very it would drag on, because I would not only be at work until 10 o'clock when we close, I would also do homework. And even though we have that extra day, if we do all classes in one day, that gives us that afternoon to do homework. Whereas right now, we have our A day, and then we have that B day to do our homework, and then turn everything in the next A day. And then I also came from a bad family household, and before I got out of that family household, I used school as my safe place. So I would go to school and go to the counselors and talk to them, or the teachers, and seek help out of them and be happier at home than at school. So I know a few other students that come from households like I did. So that extra Friday, if I were still in that household, would be hard for me, because sitting at home in a bad environment isn't always good for people who don't work. And I don't know. Is our 3 minutes up? We would like to thank you all for listening to us and giving us your time. We would also like to thank Mr. Taylor, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Moon for their support and encouragement in what we are doing.
I would love to take a look at them. All right, Seth Kenny.
The board knows I asked Seth to come and talk to us about how this may affect our drivers. Ms. Quigley?
Okay, to introduce myself, I'm Seth Canning. I'm the Transportation Director for Elko County School District. Like Todd just said, he asked me to give some brief points of how this will impact the Transportation Department and the 22 employees that operate in the Spring Creek area. Just some brief facts. Spring Creek Busing transports the largest amount of students in the district. Out of the schoolnomics report for 17-18 school year, we had 4,079 students that used our transportation services. 2,518 of those were Spring Creek students. Okay. There are 17 bus routes in Spring Creek, 2 SPED, special education routes. That is a total of 19 drivers, 2 bus aides, and we have 1 route coordinator in Spring Creek. Basically, the impact on that is we are asking these 22 employees to take a 20% pay cut. Out of those 22 employees, there are 13 bus routes that would fall that are less than 5 hours per day, which losing one day would cause them to lose full-time employment status with the district. And also in that, with the drivers, there are 2 bus aides that would possibly lose full-time status with the district. So we're talking about a loss of 15 full-time positions with the Elko County School District in Spring Creek. The impact of that would be tremendous. We did our own little survey today. On the drivers in Spring Creek, out of the 22 employees, we would retain 2. The chances of replacing those people over the summer, not very good. We currently have been trying to fill open positions all school year. We still have 1 full-time position open in Elko that is yet to be filled. As far as substitute drivers, we have a hard enough time to even get 1 that we are very lucky that we have in Spring Creek. That is not a retired previous bus driver or school district employee that can't go back to work for us full-time or doesn't want to drive every day. We do have 2 of those out in Spring Creek that basically do trips and they don't want to drive routes. And so basically we'd be looking at trying to find 15 part-time employees that wanted to work 16 to 20 or 18 hours a week without benefits and 4 days a week.
Is it not an option to move them to salary?
Then that would require a district-wide change. I mean, you're talking about, we have drivers in Wendover, we have drivers in Wells, we have drivers in Oahe, we have drivers in Elko. Spring Creek is the largest portion of our drivers. There's 22 employees there. We have 14 in Elko. There's far more students in Elko, but far less transportation. Just so everyone is aware of those points. As far as, I'm just going to go over with you a real quick thing on
Time is up.
parent. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Before you leave, I just had a quick question. Does it change, like in the winter, obviously they're dropping off towards in the dark or not? Or this would increase the amount of dark time, right?
Oh, increase it dramatically, which it did in Wells.
So safety issue.
Safety issue greatly on Highway 93, severely impacted, and will impact us on our Mountain City route greatly. Yes. So excuse me, but I'm going to go try and catch the end of my daughter's phone.
Yeah. All right, do we have any other comments? I don't have any sign up. Yes.
Can I just talk from here?
Talk loud.
So I teach kindergarten out at Sage. I have 24 students, and at the time as it is, too many children to begin with, another story. But at 24 children, they are tired by the end of the day, and you are asking them to add another 45 minutes. And I'm extremely concerned as to how they will handle 45 more minutes. If I add more recess time, then what's my academic time? Am I losing that all on Friday? I have several students that have family issues, like we just heard another young lady say that there's one more day, not maybe the best of situations, without food, without proper supervision. They're tired. They're going to come back on Monday. Am I going to start the day all over? High school, middle school, that is a very different world compared to kindergarten and the elementary school. And we need to remember that this 4-day will affect all of that. We also have to remember, like, the custodians who are working until midnight now, and they have single family or single parents. They have all of those people. You have well, we've already said about the kitchen ladies as well that will lose time, and the bus drivers that will lose time, and all of the PD that we have put in, that the district has paid a lot of money for all of this PD, and now if we take that time away, when are we going to do that important work? Our scores at our school have improved greatly because of that PD, because of the time that we've put in. And me staying until 6 o'clock, I'm going to be dead. I know that's a personal thing. Again, 4 days is different for me than it is for my children, my school children, and that's where I'm standing here today. As for my school children, what is best for them? Can they handle 4 days extra long? And is it beneficial? What is the purpose of 4 days? Is it a rush to do this? Should we just look into all these things that everybody is saying today and really look at, is this the best thing for our kids?
My name's Kelly Carr. I have 2 kindergarten students at Liberty Peak, and I also teach kindergarten at Liberty Peak. I have a little different standpoint and view on this as the prior person who spoke from kinder. I understand it would mean a longer day for our little kids, but it means a shift in our perception of engaging children. So with that, it might mean bringing back more hands-on things, bringing back science into the classroom every day, bringing play back into instruction at that age level as it should be. So I don't think that it's that our children can't do it or it's what's not best for them at this age. It does require a shift in how we're teaching children, which honestly should be shifting anyway at this age level. Some things that run through my head as far as positives for this are, when we look at the research or the numbers, 44% of new teachers leave the profession within 5 years. And so I'm curious, if we did a 4-day week, would that improve quality of instruction for the time that we are with students because teachers have more time to prepare? Honestly, I could say most of our staff would probably be there anyway on Friday, preparing and working for their class anyway. And I think with that high of a retention rate or a rate of people not coming back to our field after 5 years, which is almost 50%, that is something that we could use to keep and retain teachers here and to give our teachers some of that time back so that they can do the hard work that is required in this field and not feel burnt out after 5 years.
Hi, my name's Misty Horner. I have kids out in Spring Creek. My kids have learning disabilities. One of my youngest takes medication every day just to make it through the morning to get any kind of education. By 1 o'clock, we're done. She cannot take a midday pill because then she can't sleep at night. So extending the thing 45 minutes, that's doing nothing for my child. My child's going to lose a whole day of education, and I don't understand why. I mean, I understand you guys we need teachers, but we need other staff members too. And we also need to worry about these kids' education. That should be the primary concern for everyone, not the convenience of having a 3-day weekend every week. That is my opinion. That has been my opinion since this whole thing started. I've read all of the data. I've looked at the survey. I've looked at everything. I've done my own research. I still see nothing that is going to promote any kind of better education for any of these kids with a 4-day school week. Thank you.
I have a question, sorry. My English is not so good. I'm from Puerto Rico. So okay, I'm a parent at the Spring Creek Elementary, and I never heard until I see a Facebook post from her, actually. She's my coworker. So I have no idea why they came like 4 days or something. Can you explain a little? Who came with that idea, or?
This was brought to us from the community to research the 4-day, to see if the community wanted to
So it's
do
a
this.
part of the community or the whole community? Because I'm part of the community, I never know it.
Yeah.
I'd love to answer this for you. So we did send this out. Do you have an updated phone number, email, everything like that with the school?
I received texts from the school too, but I never heard until
It went out
a week
to
ago.
everyone, and everyone that I talked to, I got text message, email, everything. So that was our big thing. We wanted it to go to the parents, and so we chose to ask the school district to send it out through the school services. So all of the parents that had all of their information, you should have received a text and an email and a phone call about it.
We also sent home a flyer at Spring Creek Elementary to our parents. So your child should have brought one home with the link to the survey.
On a Facebook page, I see the information, but it was late to make up.
To take it? Okay. I apologize for that.
But I don't think everybody got it because my husband didn't get it and quite a few of our friends didn't get it unless I shared it on my Facebook page, and then that's how they got the link.
Oh,
Ma'am, you can take it now. How do you feel? Do you prefer the 4 for your family?
I'm a school aide. Actually, I was waiting for my position 3 years to get my position. So I'm working like 5 hours and some more minutes. I'm a single parent, so if that came, I probably have to go under the bridge with a little can because I lose everything.
Are any other comments? Sorry, I didn't turn it in.
So I am the president of the PIA at Spring Creek Middle School. And I said that I would do just a follow-up for our school since we had sent out the survey. And the numbers came back pretty large, as you can see, which to me just means that there was enough interest in a 4-day school week to bring it to you for a formal study through the school district. Not for us to make a choice, not for us to make the decision for any parents or any one-off here parent. This is a decision ultimately for you folks. We're just here at this point to provide you with enough, I guess, motivation to do that. And that's how I see the survey and see how it should proceed. I know that probably just comes off cold, but it's really not. I just want to see our parents that had that survey, they took it, or the administrators, and see follow-up on it. I want to see where it goes from there. Not that the survey should be a yes down the line or a no down the line, but that it is taken in consideration and that follow-up is done by the district. Thank you.
I'm Jamie Howell, and I'm also a parent in Spring Creek. I have an elementary student at Spring Creek Elementary and then one at the middle school. And I think I want the board to just take a moment and to realize that we're just a small number in here. And so I asked my own personal children, and I realized the high school students did a survey. They only did like 200 children. Isn't the high school quite large? I don't think that's a quite accurate.
Between both surveys, it was 500 of the 800 and whatever students, because I did 250 and they did 250 of the different students.
Are you sure it was?
Yes.
separate?
Yep.
Did you guys also interview middle schoolers? Did you?
IPS. Yep.
Yeah, and
Duplicates, or how do you know that?
how do you know? Yeah.
Because individually in my class, I had a separate form, and then they sent it around to different groups to make sure that it was in different classes. I have sophomores, they went to the upperclassmen, so there's no rep.
What kind of information are they given?
I just asked if they wanted a 4 or 5 day and why.
So impulse?
So impulse.
I think we can all agree that all the surveys done so far
they're not
have been
accurate.
incredibly informal, and we definitely would not be making decisions off of this information.
Well, even
This is
tonight,
just
when I
fact
think
finding.
about it, she might have said that one student that she had a rough home life. Well, that is unfortunate, and we need to try to help her, but we also got to think of the vast majority as a whole. So there might be a few staff that are complaining, some parents that are complaining, but we're not the whole representation of what there is out there. So I think you need to
Right, and that's
take
why
that
we're
into
saying
consideration
we
for sure. I mean,
explore that, yeah.
I just don't want you to take this and just walk away and like, well, they don't want it. I realize that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but also too in regards to that transportation guy, didn't the elementary school this year, we started an hour earlier? So if he said, oh, we're gonna run out of daylight and we're gonna be coming home in the dark, well, that was last year. I don't remember that. So I think you need to consider, yes, we're all passionate, but
let's think
And that
about
was the
facts.
reason for my motion, is to make sure that we have solid data to look at
Right.
and make
Oh, and
solid
then one
decisions.
thing that I did want to mention, and I know I probably went over, I did call the Juvenile Detention Center. And I asked them, because I knew that Wells was on last year and even this year with the 4-day, and they said they never saw an increase and they never saw a decrease. There was nothing that sent off red flags. They said, holy cow, what's going on in Wells? We need to go and look at that again. So I know that crime was a consideration, but I think we need to think of everything.
Maybe it doesn't change as much as everybody thinks.
Right, exactly.
Thank you. Anyone else that has a comment yet that wish to comment? Well, you've already had a comment, so I'm going to give someone else an opportunity. Thank you.
Did not sign up, but I am a driver.
Stand up so we can hear you.
I didn't sign up, but I'm a driver, and the years that we did drop the kids off, and it was late. By the time we get to the end of our route, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. Okay, we're out in the country. Okay, I have had coyotes cross in front of kids. I have had deer chase kids. I mean, you got to look at all that stuff. I have had kids get off my bus and they are walking home because there's not a parent to get there. And I said, can I take you home? They said, no, Mom and Dad said we have to walk. They might have a 2-mile walk. Okay? We're out in rural Spring Creek. We're not here in town where there's people next door. I had a coyote cross in front of a child just last week in the mobile section. And it's getting, so you got to consider when it gets dark, you got kids walking home in the cold and the snow and the wind. And sometimes I have wondered whether they've gotten home or not. Concerns me. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma. I have my grandkids in these schools out there too. And that is a concern for me. Not everybody, you have parents that are working, you have grandparents that are taking care of these little kids, and some of these grandparents don't get around so well. They're counting on us to get them there. And that is a major concern. So if you guys care about your kids and your grandkids, and they're walking home, you need to consider that. It's not about all the school time, it's about after school. It's about getting home for dinner. I'm just worried about the kids getting home, period. Sometimes I've gone out of my way and I've driven those kids home. Am I supposed to? No. Do I do it? Yep, sometimes I do.
Anyone else that wishes to make a comment?
Sorry.
My name is Bobby Steenson. I'm the principal at Liberty Peak. I've had a unique situation where I was also the principal at Flagview, and I guess my position isn't to talk you in or out of or make that. I'm glad to hear that it's one that's going to be pulled upon, not be an impulse piece that people are taking honestly, so I appreciate that. I guess from a unique position as an administrator, I've been in positions where when you look at things district-wide, there's impacts for the kids educationally when you're talking about 10% of rurals and potentially 40% of Spring Creek. You're at half the district. And I've been in some of those situations where Flagview's a 5th, 6th, and we're trying to problem solve, clear some hurdles of logistically, how does this work on a district approach? When we do PD and it's elementary, many times I'd have to tell people, does that include us as 5th, 6th grade? Yep, you're 5th and 6th. And then Spring Creek Middle would find out, and what about our 6th grade? Because we're still 6th grade. And it creates logisticals from our side that we're paid to problem solve and do. But with that being said, a lot of our workforce works here. They're trying to get out, and how many times I had to talk to teachers on a transfer rate and say, hey, it's not personal, it's best for my family. I get it. But now we're creating a big discrepancy between communities, which I completely understand are completely separate. But at the same time, you're talking about a large part for the district. And so for me, it's not just a community piece, but I hope you guys take that into account of, hey, as we're looking at this, not only is it just Spring Creek, but how is that going to impact our district as a whole? And do we need to expand the conversations talk? And then how does that change potential pictures? So I hope we just take our time, look at all those different avenues of how they impact not only their students, but other students that I might be working with next year in 3 years or at some other point in time.
Anyone else? All right, we appreciate all of the comments and like I say, we love to have the boardroom full, so you're welcome to come anytime.
One technical point is, our calendars are due to the state April 1st. However, each school has to be, their schedule has to be taken care of at Infinite Campus prior to that, and that takes some time, and that's why Josh is here, to give his 2 cents on that. But we need to, this is something that I don't want us to rush. Obviously, you don't either. But just, you need to know that the calendar part is the time. That's why I asked this to come to the board in February.
So Josh, would you like to give us some input on how much time, one way or another, what getting things in Infinite Campus?
So if you decide to go ahead with it this year, I would have to have 2 to 3 weeks to make all of my changes, because I've already built the calendars for next year, because they do have to submit to the state for April 1st. So I would just need a couple of weeks to go in and get all of the schedules from the schools that are going to be out there, update their day rotations and their days and instructional minutes and stuff like that. So I will be able to submit my reports to the state by April 1st.
Any other comments? I don't want anyone to feel like they didn't get to comment. Please.
I do. Just with the extension of time, and when sports would end up getting out, you're talking about so much more congestion around the time that minors are getting home or people are coming back from town, that now we only have 1 stoplight, 1 roundabout, that we already have problems with, and how that'll affect everything as well.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, no roundabouts. I'll just start it back.
Can I say just something with that, along with the bus driver? My son is a freshman this year, which means he will get his license in October. He's playing baseball right now, and I know with the practices, times can get changed and everything, but I'm picking him up in baseball practice is pretty much done at about 7:15 right now. You move back the time of school 45 minutes. Okay, now I'm picking him up at about 8, which means he's going through the roundabout, or I am, at 8 o'clock with all the minors and everything else. You need to think, that's already dangerous right there. You need to think about the safety of the students right there as well. Because I'm not having my son drive around at 8 o'clock at night after practice, because it's later to go with all those minors. It's already dangerous with them.
Go back. Okay.
There was just one school I was just wondering with the class. Nate, I know you're passionate about this issue, and you worked at the middle school, is that correct? Yes. Does it impact your middle school classroom? I mean,
here's how I think it impacts it the most. Friday, I'm not there. And I agree, we've talked about this stuff before. I'm not there Friday. And God bless our subs, but they're not doing my job. And with the 4-day school week, I have 2 passions here. One is math, and the other is coaching. I developed one a little bit more as time's progressed. I don't want to give either one of them up. But I also don't want to be out of my classroom. I don't like giving it up to somebody that I guess isn't as qualified or knows the kids as well. More importantly, anybody can probably talk about math, but you got to have that relationship with the kids. And I coach a lot of sports. It's a big passion of mine. I love making that impact on those kids as well. I'm not there on a Friday. And so we talked about instruction time lost. It's true. We made some great points tonight, and it's really kind of helped my opinion, but I still stand strong that the kids, I get it, the athletes aren't being affected, but what about the non-athletes that don't get me on Friday, or Ms. Moon on Friday, or anybody else on Friday? Are they benefiting from that? Now, it's easy for me to say, okay, stop coaching, right? That's the easy thing for everybody to say. But then again, is that helping the kids? Because I have a large impact on kids all throughout the school year that is more than just education. It's about growing up. And I feel like I do a good job of that. And I would hate to have to give that up. And I don't think the kids would want me to give that up. Because my true passion, my true job is teaching math. But if we didn't have to come on Fridays, I wouldn't miss any class. And I wouldn't miss the kids that aren't athletes too, that need me on Fridays. And that's where I stand on it. I'm passionate about that. That's why I'm here today. And I am coaching today. I came from my game. I'm here. I have to go back to my game. I don't want anybody to think that I'm just leaving because I'm mad. I understand I'm the minority here. I really get that. And I think we'd have more people turn out if the data didn't say 70-30. Right? Of course. Looks like we're going to go with it, right? 70-30. Looks like we're going to go with it. So the people that aren't in support of it are going to come. It looks like they're about to lose, right? I do think it's probably something we need to talk about more. But as for me, I don't like missing Fridays. And I don't like to miss school in general. But I do love what I do. And I love it both ways. And I don't want that to stop because somebody forces me out.
My name is Gretchen Lutz. I teach first grade at Grammar, and I'm a 20-year teacher in Elko County. I've taught at all the elementary schools in town and Flagview. Currently, I teach first grade. I have a first grader and I have an eighth grader. Lots of you that are staff know me. I'm pretty passionate about my own kids. I'm passionate about my job, and I'm involved. And some of the scuttlebutt just amongst teachers is great. Spring Creek, go for it, because those teachers in Spring Creek that are dedicated to teach could come sub for us on Fridays, because we don't have qualified substitutes in Elko County to take our place, to reiterate what Nate was saying. And so I absolutely hate being gone. I go to work when I'm sick. My colleagues go to work when we're sick, or when our own children are sick, I try to pawn them off on friends to take care of them, because there aren't qualified people to take our job when we're not there. And so this warm body, and including, we have teachers in classrooms that aren't even certified teachers teaching full-time your kids. And I don't believe the Elko County parents know that side of it from the teacher's perspective. And so I think there is a lot to consider between Elko and Spring Creek, and who's with your kids all day, and what we're doing with your kids when we do have them. Make it be quality, whether it's 5 days or 4 days. Every minute the person that's with them should be doing something that's quality.
I was not going to say anything, but I think great valid points and lots to think about too. But so I teach at Liberty Peak, but I'm also a parent of 2 middle schoolers. I've taught 22 years. I've been 3 years in the district, but I came from Nye County, and so the last 7 years previously, I came from a 40 week, and I loved it. Loved it for my kids, loved it for my family. It may not be for everybody, but just want to throw my opinion out there. I felt like a better teacher. I had longer class periods, elementary. I felt like I got through more material, even though I was a day short. I got through better lessons. I used my Fridays for prep days. We didn't get paid for it, but every teacher on the 40 week was there, and I felt better prepared for my week. And then I got to spend the weekend with my family. So I felt like it made me a better, happier teacher, better, happier mom. I think there's a lot to be said for that too. So just want to throw that out there. As someone just taught
So I just wanted to say really quick that I think it's important that while our numbers are not the same size as, say, Wells or somewhere like that, we are still rural Nevada. And with that comes its own separate struggles that we all have to deal with. And I'm all for supporting our local community in any way that we can, but we don't have the same things, especially when it comes to specialists for the medical field. There's a lot of people that are having to leave, and when you leave to take one child or one person, you have to take the whole family if you're traveling out of state for medical care. And so you just run into a lot of rural Nevada type problems living out here that I think it's important to remember and consider, that if you're traveling to California for a specialist, well, your kids are all leaving, but if you could try and make it so that all these kids with orthodontist appointments and medical appointments and specialists, that they're not missing as much school if they can schedule those on Fridays now rather than during the week when they're missing this important education. And I appreciate our teachers. I spend a lot of time volunteering within our schools because it is important to me, our education for our children. But it is true that I have 5 children, so I get to see a lot of what's happening in their classrooms. And when they're substitutes, there is a lot of movie time. And I know, like, particularly at some of the higher grades, they're not learning new things on Fridays because, and I agree with our coach here, that they need these relationships and it's important to have these relationships, but they're not getting the same educations on Fridays is my feedback from the youth, that they're just not, they can't go over anything new for the students that are there because there's too many that are gone or the teacher's gone. And so Friday, and this is in the elementary schools too, because elementary teachers are coaches also, and that's great, and I appreciate that, and I'm happy for them, but there's just a lot of things that we find in rural Nevada when people are doing double jobs, and that there's a lot of people going out of town, and not for vacations, but for needed reasons, that if we were in a bigger town that supported our numbers, people wouldn't be missing so much attendance-wise. And I just think it's important to remember that we're not Wells, we're not some of these small areas, but we are still rural. We still have to travel to another state to get the care that we need. And I just think that's important to remember during these decision-making processes. But thank you.
I was just going to say I have nephews and nieces that are in 4 different states besides Nevada, and they're all doing the 4-day programs because of they're also in rural type areas, not as rural as Nevada. But the parents, my brothers and sisters, said the dramatic change from the 5 to the 4 was those sports weekends. A lot like us, they'd have to travel to go to play sports. They're missing their teachers, and that was the number one thing. They were missing a lot of their teachers, and so they're not. I love math. I'm geared for math and science. I love those fields, but I've also seen when there is not a teacher that knows how to teach calculus or physics or chemistry or any of those subjects, they're not progressing. I know math and those sciences, they need to be consistent in order for children to catch on and continually do those. But if it's a dead stop on a Friday because there's not a coach or a teacher is out for coaching, it's a dead stop anyway, and they can't progress on that date. And then the students lose track, the teacher doesn't know where they are. So my siblings have said in those fields, I don't know about the English or the other type of assignments, especially elementary. I don't have very many younger nephews and nieces, but those older kids in high school, middle school, they benefit greatly from those 4 days. And that's where my youngest is 9 and he's getting up to that age, so I feel for the kindergartners. If my kindergartners had to go that long to school, they would have been asleep and dead. So it's very hard to arrange, but I do know that that 4-day has helped tremendously on those type of assignments, those classes that need a teacher constantly there to teach and not just watch videos, which was happening. So.
Everything's talking about Fridays, but golf is gone during the week, wrestling's gone during the week, soccer's gone. So Friday is not addressing all the coaches being gone. They are not all on Friday. So I just want to address that, because that's not being addressed.
I'd just like to bring up one of the main concerns that we have, obviously, as educators. I'm Jen Bixler. I teach first grade. My kids cannot tolerate the last hour of the day anyway. Just saying, and it's getting worse every single year because we have all the instant gratification, and it's just really hard to engage kids any longer. But I think we just really need to take time to research, look at whether or not this is effective for kids, which is obviously the most important factor. We've been working really hard on our professional development in our state. We're 48th in the nation, but last year, between 2018 and 2019, we made the most growth out of all the states in our test scores. So not only our district, but our entire state has been working towards this. I think we really need to look at all of the factors and solve a lot of those problems ahead of time if we choose to
go to a 4-day. I don't know what's best for kids yet because we need more information, obviously. Obviously, as a teacher, I would love to work 4 days a week so I could just work 5 days a week instead of 6 days a week. But I want what's best for my students, you know, as well as my own personal athletes. I don't think that they could manage a longer school day in high school and then later practices and keep up with their academics. I think that's going to negatively impact athletes, older and younger. I think younger kids are worried about having later practices and being tired anyway as well. But really considering all of the factors. How do we look at transportation? How do we look at professional development? Would we lose our PLCs, which is really, really important and brought our community together? Elko and Spring Creek and the outlying areas. We've worked really hard on that to try and build a community of teachers that are working together and not isolated in their own classrooms, so that we're doing what's best for all kids, especially those struggling kids and those at-risk kids, because the amount of kids every year that are hungry in my classroom, it just gets more and more and more and more. And yes, I don't think we should give everything to people, but when you look at a 6-year-old and they're hungry, it breaks your heart. It's not their fault. So we need to look at all the factors before we make decisions and try to solve those problems before we make any changes. Thank you.
I'll second it. Oh, second it.
Ira has seconded it.
No, I appreciate everyone that had the courage to stand up and voice their concerns, because it's not the easiest thing to do to stand up with a bunch of adults that are listening to you. And I know there's a lot of teachers when I taught that you'd think they'd be great public speakers, but they were scared, I won't put the word in, when they had to get up at the end of the year and give out anything. So I appreciate that you had the courage to do that, and I hope someone, they keep sneaking out on me, but I hope someone from Spring Creek tells those 3 girls what a marvelous job they did.
Yes, please.
I'm their teacher. I will. I will too.
I'm a bus driver.
All right, I wanted to I just wanted to make a comment. Before we ever started down this 4-day school week journey, I did a lot of research, called people. And the main thing I came away with talking to different areas that have done the 4-day school week is their biggest thing is the community has to be behind it. They said if the community as a whole is not behind it, it won't work. So I just want to say, from what I've heard tonight, it doesn't sound like the community's quite there yet. And I think you need to do some more work on community relations, education. I would talk to people that are in these 4-day schools, because the people I've talked to absolutely love it. Whether it can work for Spring Creek or not, I don't know, because you do have more challenges. But I just wanted to put that out there, that I think you need to come together as a community if you really want this to work. That was my comment. Any other comments real quick?
Yeah, I want to commend the individuals who put the survey together. I really appreciate you bringing that information here. You've done a good job with the actual survey itself. And then, obviously, I thank all of you who have come with your particular opinions, with regards to the 4-day week. It makes me think that there may be a lot of different options out there for the various schools. We've done the 4-day week with Wells. It's been going for 2+ years. We have some other schools that are just initiating and getting started on that. I think the jury is still out Obviously, as most of you agree, that student achievement has got to be one of the key driving factors with regards to this 4-day week. Increased class time, you hear stories, individuals say, well, and being a teacher a few years ago, you had individuals that you knew were going to take more time to teach and for them to grasp those concepts. And that is done in a lot of cases at the expense of the kids that are maybe a little higher level, to take them higher. The whole objective is to get everybody to increase. I see some real positive benefits, and some of you have brought up benefits for the 4-day week. Some of you have brought up and made real good arguments. I've taken notes all the way through the public comment. It gives me something definitely to look at and to think about. A lot of things that I haven't considered. But, I do appreciate everybody being here and stating your opinion with this, so thank you.
And I'll just add too, I heard a mom somewhere over there, I've already forgotten your name, but she started out saying, I am just a parent. Nobody is just a parent. You are absolutely a parent first and foremost. I don't want anyone to ever think that you have a concern or an issue with something with the school district and you can't come to us and present to us because you're just a parent. I'm sitting here because I'm just a mom to these two monsters, and they're the sole reason why I do this. I want the absolute best for them all the time. And as a parent, that's your job. You're never just a mom. You're never just a dad. You are mom, you are dad, and you know best for your kids. And I thank everybody so much for taking the time to come and advocate for their kids, because it's awesome. And to see kids come, and you being the mom of one of them, and advocate for themselves, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise adults that can advocate for themselves. And this has been an awesome experience for that. And just thank you, everybody.
Where are we going to go from here?
We've got a motion on it right now.
Actually, I do want to say something too as well.
Go ahead.
By the way, well said, Candace. I like what you said. I like what you said, Jim. Daphne, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with me. My personality can be a little antagonistic, especially when you're dealing with data, but great presentation, by the way. And great. Anyway, one of the things too that I think we always have to consider is the fact that the schools that we gave 4-day school weeks to are ones that are already having problems with retaining teachers and the turnover rate at those particular schools. And so it's a great recruiting tool to get people out into the outlying areas. I spent 7 years in Wells. I understand the dynamic there. It's not the same as Spring Creek. So those comparisons we have to be careful of. And that's why I want to see some data, because I know some of you think I already have my mind made up. I want to see data and see what it does. I don't want to go down the White Pine School District route where all of a sudden the charter school garners more student enrollment because people want the 5-day. That, unfortunately, we have to be very concerned about DSA, especially next year with the legislative session and the new funding formula. That could mean jobs, teachers that have just come into the district, see ya, because you're on the bottom rung. So keep that in mind when we're examining the data.
And I'd also like to tell people like Brian, because I was very vocal about this, I did not want to go to the 4-day week. And I talked to some of the teachers afterwards, and a lot of them, they did, a lot of my concerns were addressed, found out she was not, and so then I voted for Wendover. So you don't need to think that my mind is made up here one way or the other.
Where you could go from here, presentations we've had in the past from other schools that went to a 4-day week, it was the administration and the community both were in on the presentation. It was a joint effort with everybody involved.
I'll say I appreciate, this conversation getting started, because there are lots of different things we can do for our students. There are lots of pros and cons to everything. But I think this is an important conversation that the community of Spring Creek needs to have to decide if this is something that, does work for the community or does not work for the community. Personally, I'm in favor of it. I have a lot of family members that go to big schools, small schools. My sister's in Wells. I have a sister that has been all over the country, and they have been in 4-day schools, and they love it, love it, love it. Okay, so I have seen so many positive things from a 4-day school week. We have a lot of things to consider with Spring Creek, and I think it's really important that this conversation has been started and we continue to get out correct information. I know, I have 7 children, so I have 6 in school right now. I have more kids in school than people maybe will ever have grandkids in school. So to me, there's a lot of really important things that go on, and it impacts my family in a big way. And it's really important that we look at all of the data and everything else, but we also need to have schedules. We need students to know this day is not going to be extended 2 hours. I had an opportunity to sit and listen to a lot of students and faculty at Spring Creek High School yesterday, and lots of the students said, I can't go for 2 more hours. And I said, it won't be another 2-hour day. And there are kids who caught me afterward who said, I'm really totally in favor of this, but I'm afraid that I'm going to get made fun of because the vocal people are opposed. And that's not what we want. We want conversations where people can be honest, where people aren't afraid to give their opinion. And I love that we have this conversation here in this room where everyone can be civil, we can all share our thoughts and our opinions, and that's what needs to happen. We need to have open and honest conversation with details of what a day is going to look like, details of what a schedule is going to look like, whether it's for the school day, the busing, the food service, all of those things. We need a better, solid, set schedule idea, if that makes sense, so that we know, and kids know what they're actually saying yes or no to. Parents know what they're actually saying yes or no to. Because I will tell you, I had a lot of kids come up and say, I signed a petition, but I actually really want a 4-day week. Okay, I saw some of the kids on that list who said, I really want a 4-day week, and here's why. And so I don't want anyone to be afraid to share their opinion. That's not what that's not what it should look like. We should have open discussion, be honest, look at all of the details, and move forward from there. So that's my thought, is we need to get more accurate information as far as what things would look like in Spring Creek if a 4-day week were approved. Because that would give everyone a better idea of what they're actually voting yay or nay on, and give them more opportunity to think through all of the different aspects of what would change. So there, according to the surveys, there's a huge number of people in favor. And I had people say, I'm not coming tonight because I know there are so many people in favor. I have people stop me in the grocery store. I have people call me. I get lots of feedback from a lot of different people. People with medical concerns that said, wow, I would love to not have my child have to be in someone else's care one more day a week. And I would love to be able to take my daughter to a specialist. I have people with special ed students that have actually said, I would love to have my kid home on a Friday. I would love to have more time with my child. I would love to be able to spend time with my child because they're always at school, and I really want them home. And anyone who says, I'm just a parent, I was going to say that to Tammy too. Parents, you are the most important educator your child will ever have, ever. Okay, our educators are amazing and they're doing awesome things for your kids, but please never underestimate your power as an educator. You are a lifelong educator to your child, your grandchildren. So please don't underestimate yourself as a parent, because if we had more parents involved in our school district who worried more about feeding their child than about buying a 4-wheeler, whatever it might be, we wouldn't have a lot of the issues we do. So don't underestimate your value as a parent. It's more important than anything we do in this room. So those are my thoughts. We need to move forward with more accurate information, and with the opportunity to really talk openly as a community. Perhaps a community meeting that would be facilitated where people could feel like they could come and openly talk about their concerns, get some data that way. I think there's a lot of opportunity to really find out what the feel is from the community of Spring Creek, and not just, a few people here and there. I think it would be great to really find out from the whole community what their thoughts are. So, that being said, any other comments from the board?
I just want to your point. Okay, can you restate the motion, Mr. Zeisler? And my question would be, are we tabling it indefinitely? Is it tabling it to a certain date? How is your motion presented as far as?
Yeah, I'm just like to see it tabled until we get data collected by a school district team that can be comprised, should be comprised of teachers, parents, community members, et cetera, trying to get us all the data from the different entities, the transportation, food, community groups, private businesses, how everybody's going to be impacted by this.
With the data, I don't know. It's really hard because as a teacher, I know you hand out stuff, take home, and maybe 50% of them make it home. Maybe 50% of those get thrown in the garbage. And so it's very hard to get an accurate survey that way. But I'm also very concerned about social media surveys. I think there's too much of a problem right now of people being able to manipulate them. And so I don't know how you're going to get an accurate response on your surveys of, okay, we had 75% or 25% or whatever. It's very hard to do a survey.
Can I speak to that? We chose to do the survey anonymously, so we were trying to avoid the groupthink theory. We didn't release the survey results to the public until all was said and done because we truly wanted people's honest answers, not just, oh, everyone else wants 4-day, so I want 4-day too. We really wanted to keep it anonymous and keep the results until the 31st, so that way we knew what people's real ideas were, and they could voice their own opinion anonymously without having to tell us, pull us aside, be like, sorry, everyone's a little too loud. I want to just let you know this is my real opinion, but I'm going to vote this way. And with the social media comment, if I can interject, we asked the school board to send out the email, and there were still parents who didn't receive it via email.
I think that there's ways that you can collect data that is more of a closed loop, and you're specifically addressing it to household parents at their specific address. You're asking for their information, and you know exactly who it's going to. The problem with this, and I really valued the survey that we had, is that there's no way to truly understand who received it, who didn't receive it, and the answers that you get back. So if that's something that you're planning on going forward with and doing like a survey, that it would have to be more of a formal closed survey. You know who your participants are, you address it to your participants, and you receive the information back from your participants. If you know you've sent out 1,000 surveys and you get back 500, you know you've got a 50% return on your survey results. And then you're calculating. But that is going to have to come from more of a formal
Like a third party.
Yeah, it's going to have to come, if you want to make a committee with the schools and the board and the school district and the parents and all that, that's great. You just have to come together and create a survey and know exactly who you're targeting. Get those results back. And then, there's going to be very little argument on whether or not those are people who received it or didn't receive it. I mean, from what I'm understanding with the data, you're just looking to see those questions answered, those loopholes, tidied up. Okay, well, if you got 50%, then that's great. We have the 50%. But in order to do that, it has to be a formal survey. And it has to come from more than just the PIAs and the PTAs and the parents and it has to be a collaborative thing.
important data for me is hard data that's collected by the district and sent to the state. And I mean, test scores are important. Feel-good surveys are not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in scores. I'm interested in demographics. I'm interested in how many students are in certain elementary schools that are 1-star or 2-star, 3-star, 4-star that are going to be impacted by this.
Yes.
Or how it impacts all district employees. Not just the teachers and the kids. It impacts all the district employees, and that should have always also been sent to us.
Informal survey. Mind
Yes.
you that
My foremost, as a board member, my foremost objective is to look out for students that are underserved. All students, hopefully, but definitely underserved students, because it impacts what we do as a district. Funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to table it. Any other discussion?
I think that tabling may not be the appropriate motion for this. It probably should be postponing it definitely. Motion to lay it on the table is basically to kill the motion. It gives us an opportunity to come back in 2 weeks and take that motion up, and after that, it's done. And I don't think that may be what we're actually after. Perhaps if we postpone it to a time when the different groups, PTAs, the parent group, the administrators have had an opportunity to do some schedule ideas to tweak, and then bring that back as a complete group, as what Mr. Wines had said earlier, I think would be more appropriate.
And that's the intent of the motion, and I defer to your expertise in parley parable. If that's what would happen, yes, that's what I would rather do, Mr. Cooney.
Passing the motion to Mr. Cooney. And we'll have it. The motion is to postpone this indefinitely to the first meeting in March. Do we want to set a date? As far as this year, we would need it at least by then.
I think we need.
This year?
I would say more time.
I don't know if we can put together the data that you're requesting by the first meeting of March.
Right.
Or the people, right.
As a former high school principal creating schedules, I would say that March 1st with a decision wouldn't have given me enough time to create a master schedule for next year.
What would you think is a good time frame? Like, do you need 3 months to bring this back to us? I mean, what is the community's feeling?
I'm asking you guys.
Well, I'm kind of asking the whole general community out
To
there.
bring back, I think we'd have to determine who's going to be members of this committee, convene that committee, determine what it is we're going to bring back, what is the information, the data, and whatever that is, that decision is, that's going to determine the length of time that it would take.
As of right now, I would agree with Mr. Walls that it's going to take us at least several weeks just to determine the correct questions to ask and to find the right people to bring in to ask those questions. This is going to be a lengthy process.
So would it be better to just withdraw the motion, just not even make a motion on this item right now, and then just have this be presented at a different agenda? Just come back with another agenda with the...
If I were going to speak just strictly to building a schedule, no matter what, if it's a 4-day week or not, I would say there's not enough time for you guys to gather enough information to make that determination in a timely enough manner for the schools to make a schedule for next school year.
Right.
Correct.
So this would have to be something that would be carried over to next year. And
But-
hopefully then, by then, all this data could be accrued, the community can get together, and then we can make this decision.
And that's really just from me speaking from building, just the task of building a schedule.
And I would agree with that. Really, to time frame wise, to do all this correctly, we would probably be looking at school year 22-23 for proper implementation, right? So use next year, I'm sorry, 21-22, I apologize, 21-22 for proper implementation, if that's the will of the board. Because right now, if we tried to do it, you would get a rush product, it would be inaccurate and all over the place.
How do we make that motion, Jim?
Move to the next item on the agenda. Yes, and
Or can we make a motion to have a directive to get this done? Or do we not want to go here?
do we need a directive for all of you?
Personally, I would like a date or at least a time frame to come back to this, so I know how long I have. I like deadlines. I'm a very, I like yeah, I'm a little type A. So if I like my project, and so I need to know when my project is due, so to speak. So I have time to gather what you need, figure out what you need, and bring it back to you.
And then we need to have a timeline also so that the public can see it.
Exactly.
So that everybody can see it and make a fair evaluation of the data.
Absolutely. I love that.
And at this point, we still need to determine what data we're going to
read.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Again.
Well as who's conducting the survey, would then it be Daphne, the lead of that board, to conduct the survey, or would we have multiple?
Local County School District person.
Okay.
It may be helpful
Would be the
just
most
for the
appropriate.
district to take this. So I think there was a confusion that the admin and teachers can give their feedback. So I think this was a parent-led thing. You heard a ton of information. I think at this point, the district needs to make some sort of project plan with timelines so that everybody can be involved. All these issues are actually addressed. And then at that time, so you can take no motion, no action right now. When this groups get together, everybody who talked, I think that needs to gather up. The district needs to help lead some of that, answer all these budget questions, timelines, some of these questions, and then bring it back at a later date. That seems like the most logical thing to me.
And I'll jump on that. I agree. I'd just like to know what data you want. I mean, there's lots of data out there. I mean, you want, me to call every parent and ask them? I mean,
that group decide.
Yeah, that's what I'm all willing to help out.
Involved in that.
Yeah, I just like to know.
Obviously, the
what we
unions
want.
will be involved, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think just one more point to that. If you're going to do, I would suggest a third-party survey. We've done it many times, costs 15-some grand. If they do need to bring that out to the board, but that is a verified survey. They call and get your licenses, or you can do it in November during the elections. But I think that could be part of that project plan that says, here's the key things that everybody noted tonight. Here's how we're going to address them. But it needs to be led, I think, from a district central office maybe standpoint, gather all those people together and put that plan together and actually get the information out. I think that'll take a lot of months, but I don't know if you necessarily have to take any action at this point.
Is that Jesse back here? I can't see.
I'm trying not to talk the whole time. But I think it will take some time. Like, there's a lot of good points that definitely need discussed here. And additional surveys, but the third party verifying some of those to make an informal survey. But I think if the district could help lead some of that and keep those groups together, do community meetings, get that information, it might be helpful. But maybe giving direction to the district to do that would be the most logical thing to me.
And I think the survey should come after we gather the data and it's out into the public, so.
If I may.
Yes, please.
I know I'm out the door in
Not yet.
4.5 months.
Supposed to be you in charge?
No. Could we not start this process with a second order change? Getting different entities together and make a plan and go from there? Because Tammy wants to do something.
So moved.
Committee.
So moved.
There's my 2 cents.
That means I'm making this happen.
I've lost track of where we are. You rescind your motion. Okay.
My initial.
All right.
Making another one.
Do we have a second? Would you like to explain your motion?
The Superintendent's Advisory Committee with Tammy is going to take a look at this, and then they can develop a committee, develop data, and all that good stuff. I'm sure Daphne will be involved.
I would love to. Thank you.
Candace, I'm an alternate, so if you guys get sick, I know.
Why did I volunteer for that? Oh my God.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Tammy, we hope you accept.
Of course.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Chair votes aye and we will go in that direction, find out more information, move forward with that. Thank you, everyone, for coming. You're still welcome to stay. You don't have to leave. We have more information, more stuff on our agenda. But hopefully we'll give you time to go and
Here I am.
Jason's all that's it.
I've got you.
Oh, that's exactly
No, you're good. At least you get a chair
One of the big boards, but
I knew it was going to be a little late.
no, I didn't. Hurry up.
I probably should take on the project before I go, so it's only right in Paris, right? Are you? Oh no, he's voting.
We're still on 2.1.
Well, very fast. This is Dad. Well, Daphne, great job. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. I don't know. I think that's like 7.
Right, because a lot of them and they want to go to spring break. And I need to get one sport.
Midnight oil. Good thing we're all night.
Yeah, the rest should be okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
You did a good job with that.
I appreciate it.
We worked the kinks out.
I came from a 4-day school week and I love it.
Yeah, and that's for sure. I see women with problems. Thank you.
A lot of parents how many of those?
She just turned it down.
She'll be out. That's gonna hurt.
Well,
yes, it is amazing.
So, It's that'll be the only time. Well, I'm sure.
By the way,
Because this has been a really long day, all right, for everybody, and we're glad you're sticking with us. We're going to move to item number 2.2, review and discuss items pertaining to superintendent search. All right, everyone should have a superintendent application to look over. These are things that we need to get done so that we can, actually have information out there and advertise our superintendent search, that these items need to come before the board so that you can see them. We can talk about them if anybody in the audience, has really strong opinions on this. We're glad to hear those too. All right, so any comments from the board? There's a superintendent application that came from Dr. Oliver, as well as a brochure for advertising. So any corrections, comments, anything else from the board?
Yeah, on the brochure, I just wanted to say that I really love the platform. I think it's way better than what we had before. I did have one typo that I found under the community, so we can let Deb know. The community, the last paragraph, it is a friendly town that hosts many community events.
Right, and I think we got that one corrected. So there's an updated one.
Oh, there's an updated, okay.
So there have been a couple sent out, and Deb was on the road today and pulled over and was making corrections. So as they were being sent to her from Cassie and I, as we saw, and those who had input. So there is an updated one that is attached to the agenda. Are there questions, comments, concerns?
One question that I had is I looked down through the actual application. Have we had legal take a look at the questions, and are there any questions that perhaps cannot be asked on that application?
This is a question, because we just got the application.
I just got it when I saw it posted on the agenda.
So that's probably something we need to.
Bounce off of legal, if we could get Rich to respond to that, and if there's something, get that information to Dr. Oliver, be able to move forward with this, because everything else, I like the job announcement, covers it, gives a lot better idea of what the district is composed of. So.
And are there any questions you'd like to see on the application or taken off the application? Aside from having it run through legal, is there anything else?
I thought that the questions were very appropriate. However, sometimes when I think something might be appropriate, might be over the line. So.
All right. So, we don't really need to, make a motion to approve these or anything. I think we can just by consent say yes, let's send things through legal, and then we can get that to Dr. Oliver first thing in the morning. As far as I'll talk to our legal counsel first, and then we can move forward with publishing unless anyone is opposed, as long as it's good with legal.
Yeah, and I think that looking at the deadline of March 30th, we're in good shape right there. So
with the timeline.
It's a good timeline. And I guess we'd have the opportunity to massage that timeline with regards to going through scheduling interviews, limited it down, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Would we need a motion or anything to allow it to be sent to Deb after legal has looked it over and said he's okay?
No, because we've already hired Deb to facilitate this, so she just wants to make sure the board sees everything and, is good with things before they roll out. So we've already hired Deb, we've already made that motion. These are all kind of formalities and making sure that, the board is on board with the material she's providing.
Yep.
So I guess our direction is, can we get that run through legal in the morning and then
Going right in.
Awesome. It's already done. I love this.
Not done, not quite yet.
All right, anything else pertaining to the superintendent search? Right now? Okay, We'll move on to item number 2.3, review and possible approval of updates to policy JHF, student travel. Oh, no, we tabled that one. Let me scratch that one off. I forgot. Skip. Item 2.4, receipt, review and possible approval of amendments to existing policies B, B, C, and DBH due to statutory changes.
Move to approve.
All right.
And I have some questions.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Wines, discussion.
Okay, on DBH, I noticed you're changing the date from January to March 15th. And so my question is why are you moving the date, and is that going to leave us, enough time to get everything approved?
Yes, because we've never got it back from the schools by the dates that it said it was. So why make it so we're violating our policy? Let's change our policy to what's really happening. But the other dates, the third Monday in May and the last day in May, that's statutory. That has to change. And so the part where it talks about the tentative budget hearing in item 4, that's a statutory change. The ones in item 5 and item 7 and item 6, those are all statutory items.
Okay, but and then my other concern here is that we've completely removed the superintendent. Is that correct, from this entire process? It only goes through the finance office?
That's because our superintendent prior to Mr. Pearson had the role, he was doing this before, and that's why. So he's abreast of everything. I go over all this stuff with him, but he's not getting the data in and putting it in the worksheets and doing all that stuff.
Oh, and so you're saying previously the superintendent did all that?
He did a lot of it.
Just because of Jeff's unique role. Right?
Yes.
Or unique background.
His unique background. He did a lot of things that I'm not making Mr. Pearson do.
Okay, thank you. And then on JHB, was that the other one? Which one?
That was not, that was next.
Next. Okay, so
DBC and DBH.
Oh yeah, that was DBH.
You just talked about DBH. And these are statutory changes on DBC. Correct? They're just statutory changes.
Yes, they are.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
And I think to address the issue, and speaking specifically with Mr. Zander in this, the superintendent, within the contract that the superintendent has, he directly supervises over and is involved in the setting up and the development of those things. So, yeah, I don't think that the policy is superseding the superintendent's authority.
Okay.
But I can see where I had the same thought.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of approval of those policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and those are approved. Item 2.5 is receipt, review, and possible approval of amendment to policy JHB due to GASB Statement 84.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And I just have one question about that. I know it was brought up about school carnival accounts or those types of fundraisers where grade levels have a certain part of that. Will that be identified in the account as their pool of money, or no?
No,
It'll just come from the schools.
Most of the schools have like a first grade account, second grade account, that kind of stuff. Some schools have them by teachers. There's one school that has it all by teachers. But what this means is GASB 84 says that we can have no administrative involvement. We have to just be fiduciary of those monies, but we can't have the administrative involvement. So when the principal signs off, all he's signing off is saying, yes, there's money in the account. They can spend it the way these people asked it to be. And so the new forms we've developed have signatures. So like a club officer and the advisor, and then the principal's just saying, yeah, there's money in the account, they can do what they wanted to do. And so that's the same thing that we rolled out to everybody and suggested then that if they have their group of their first grade teachers or their kindergarten teachers or something, they can still have 2 teachers sign on there. This is what we want to do with our money. Principal, actually, there's adequate funding there, sign off, and then it goes through the process. Just the way it has been.
Forms still require 2 signatures at least. So
Yes.
you've got more than one person.
Yes.
So where's the accountability on these accounts?
What do you mean, where's the
Well, because
accountability?
you're changing the annual school district audit may include an audit of student organization funds. You're changing that from shall to may.
Because then the auditors have discretion to pick whatever they want to pick. We aren't saying you have to pick this because it's in our policy. They normally will go through and they'll do a risk assessment of the areas they think they need to look at. And they will focus maybe efforts in this area this year, and maybe they'll focus areas of efforts in this area another year. But the way the policy is written, it says they have to do it every year. And that may not be what they think is the most risk.
So are they still required? Because the way I read it, you've taken out the administrator part of it, so the administrator doesn't have any approval in the process?
So the administrator at the sites, they're still having to do these reports where they're looking to see, did all the advisors get the reports, every month? Because they should be getting 2 reports every month about their student activity funds that they're the advisor for. So they're supposed to be talking to them and saying, did you get the reports? And then they do a cursory review. Did the end of balance of this report match the beginning balance of, that report, that kind of stuff. And then, but it's not our money and it's not the principal's money. It's student or parents, if they're like a booster club or whatever, it's their money, so they need to be making the decisions where it's spent. And that's what's in this accounting standards.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
But there's one thing, I believe, with the activity accounts, it's generally a site, let's say Elko High School. All of the activity accounts are in one account, or if you have 35 different activity accounts, you have 35 different specific accounts in the bank.
No, we have one bank account.
Okay.
For all
So that's
for
the
all
same as
schools.
it's been.
No, years and years ago, each school had their own bank account, and they would write checks on it, and there were no controls. And so when I was the auditor, I used to write the district up multiple times every year because you never followed policies, good procedures, anything you were supposed to do. So we moved it to one bank account, so the procedures for paying out payments are the same as they are for district monies. So we have to have documentation behind them before we'll pay them out. And this is one piece of documentation saying that the people who are involved in administering that student activity account, like your FFA advisor and in the club members, that they're the ones that are making the decisions. It's not the principal saying, oh, I think the FFA ought to pay for this. So.
It's basically the same way. It was that way before I retired, and it sounds like it's still basically that same way. So the idea was just clarification on that so that we didn't have a bank account for FFA, another one for FHA, another one for skills, another one for whatever.
No, one bank account for all of them, but they all have different funds within there. So Elko High School might have an FFA, and Wells might have an FFA, and Spring Creek High School has an FFA. They're all separately accounted for.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that is approved. Item 2.6 is receive, review, and possible approval of policy DM, use of district or site names and logos.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Does this include the newspaper taking pictures at our events and kids happen to be in them, don't they have to get that approved? I know we have that happen a lot at some elementary schools. And excited social media moms I was questioning about when they start posting things from schools, and it includes many children's.
Honestly, I believe so FERPA requires us to, this is the FERPA guy, but FERPA requires us to designate what is directory information. And our FERPA notice that we send out designates images as directory information. And then directory information you are able to release.
Without?
So newspaper and moms and grandmas or anybody?
Well, the newspaper doesn't work for us.
Yeah, so we can't determine what the newspaper's going to do.
Parents are okay then to disseminate stuff on social media?
Well, they don't work for us either.
Yeah.
They're students.
Yeah.
I would assume if students are brought to a public event, then individuals could take pictures there. But to come into our schools and take pictures.
Correct.
Big no-no, according to this policy.
And like pictures that we put in our own newsletter or something like that. But again, we've designated images as directory information.
Because doesn't every parent/student fill out the form in the beginning of the school year saying whether
They receive it. It's passive affirmation. They're receiving it, and then you have to come back to school if you wish your child that their picture is not released. You have to positively request that at the school site. So it's passive agreement through that FERPA letter.
And that's what would have to be checked. See who's.
Correct.
Done.
And that's kept at the school site.
I was going to say that's a school site. Oh,
absolutely.
Good. All right.
Yeah, with 10,000 plus kids in the district, that's not run through here. Which kids have been at it's controlled. Absolutely.
Okay.
Mrs. Iser, did you have a comment on that?
Yes, I do, actually. I was going to bring the lovely little piece of paper that's been requested, not just by myself, because it pains me all the time, but also it has been talked about at a teachers' union meeting, and the teachers asked if I would come on their behalf. I wasn't going to do any of this evening because of the Spring Creek stuff. I want to bring you the actual form that parents fill out. It is extremely confusing. We as teachers don't know how to read it. We don't know how to explain it to them. I had a mom the other day take pictures in the lunchroom, and she was going to immediately post them to social media as per her children's request. And I said, you can't do that. Those children are in my care right now. And she's like, well, why can't I? And I said, because you don't have permission from all of those parents to post their child on social media. And it kind of became a back and forth, which was very uncomfortable for me because I want the parents to be there. I want to be respectful of them being present in our schools and being a part of things, but it put me in a very awkward position. I've been in trouble with a judge in this town because their child was under, I was under very strict rules that I was not to have that child's picture anywhere because of a case that was currently pending. And that child's picture appeared outside of the school district. And I was in a lot of trouble for that. By that parent, it did come to central office at the time. I would like to avoid that. So the paper, I just feel like needs to be looked at, and I was going to bring it at a future meeting, not next week or next time either because of the buyouts. So I'm trying to find a good time to bring that paper and just say there's got to be something better. And I don't know what that is. I have not had time to research that, but there has to be something better for us as teachers to understand so that we know that we're not getting ourselves in trouble, that parents can't come back later and have an issue. So anyway, I don't know if I'm helping or hindering because I didn't look at this. I've been homesick. So
I think that paper is definitely something that would need to be a separate item to discuss.
Okay.
Right, that's what I was going to
Or
say.
just
That's
an
completely
administrative
separate
task.
from this, right? This is just about logos.
We can eat. I got a note to pull it. Check it out.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So any other questions on this? Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that is approved. Item number 2.7 is receipt, review, and possible approval of policy DDJA crowdfunding.
Move to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a lot of concerns about this one. So this is pretty much, straighten me out in case I'm wrong, these would be like GoFundMe accounts, is that correct?
Well, there's a designated.
Designated.
Donor
Designated,
choose.
right.
I have some questions as far as oversight. I mean, how are you gonna keep oversight on these different accounts? Is that done because it goes through this special?
And help me out, Jerry, but there are no cash payments to a teacher through this. It would go through my school box, which is controlled by us. They have to get approval through us at central office about the project. It's limited in the number of dollars, as you read, 3,000. So.
And then my other concern here is what about scammers? I mean, what if somebody goes out there and puts out something like they are doing a GoFundMe for the school district and
I think that's why they chose Donors Choose, is because it's an education-based crowdfunding. We saw a presentation on it at the NASB. So they're vetting the project before it gets published. So there has to be some.
But the parents, how are the parents going to know that? I mean, if somebody goes out there and puts a copycat kind of GoFundMe account out there that looks like it's official,
I can't speak to, I've never done Donors Choose, but I would assume the teacher would contact their parents via
some
something.
other method.
Yeah.
Well, and I've done Donors Choose a few times, so I kind of have some experience with it. I heard about it at the NASB conference, so I sat there, got on my phone, immediately searched 89801, found the teachers that were in the area that needed money, and donated through PayPal that way. My son's teacher was on there, and I had no idea she was trying to crowdfund something. She didn't send anything to the students or to the parents or anything, because I think she didn't know what she could and couldn't do. So I had to actively go find projects, and that's still what I do. I'm actively going and finding Elko County teachers to fund. So, I mean, to be scammed, you can't control somebody being scammed, really. I mean, if somebody wants to clone this site and somebody doesn't do their due diligence and see that it's legit, the district can't control that. But as far as Donors Choose being legit, they are vetting everything.
That's not my concern there. I guess I'm kind of wondering what prompted this? What happened to, why can't the PTA groups or, other groups do the fundraising
I
for
think
the
what
teachers?
prompted us to have a policy is because we had people just doing this on their own
Okay,
accord.
see, that's, okay.
So that pushed us to get some structures in place to have some oversight so that we just weren't willy-nilly.
And I think
accountability.
the projects that they're funding are sort of beyond the scope of a PTA. I mean, they're talking about 3D printers and like fairly large dollar items. I mean, obviously there's a cap, but it's more than what you can just ask a few people for. And the motivation behind Donors Choose is that they can crowdsource outside entities who want to fund classroom projects. And so if they have a project that they feel should be funded, maybe there's a donor back east that says, just throw $1,000 at whatever project if it fits this criteria. Donors Choose will find that project. It could be a project here, and then that $1,000 is coming to us. So I think that was more, I mean, the things that the teachers are asking for are very cool.
Yeah, but we did want some language in there to make sure about how they're wording it, and that's why we asked for an approval to come up to the superintendent's designee, so that we can make sure that they are not trying to fund things that should be coming through our SPED funds or something else, because we're prohibited from doing that. But also I read some of I did a lot of research, and I looked at a bunch of different crowdfunding sites and things. This one took one of the lowest caps off the top, because there's like Adopt a Classroom. They took like 15%, 10% right off the top, and then they would, send the rest of it around. And we also wanted some structure so people knew that if you're crowdfunding in the name of the district, whatever you get is district property, and it needs to be labeled as such and put in our insurance information so that if something happens to it, because I looked on the Donors Choose website and I saw that about $30,000 of projects had been funded, and I don't know what the time period was because one of my staff members showed me one that was on that website from 2018, and it did not come up in my search. But about $30,000 worth of stuff, so it had to be a shorter period of time, and we had no idea. It was not being reported on our financial statements. It was none of that equipment was being reported. They were asking for iPads and different stuff, which doesn't mean that they weren't taking it home. And when you retire, it's yours, and that's not the way it is. It's still our property once you've done it in our name. So we needed some good structure to this policy.
Thank you for the explanation. Any other questions? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that is approved. Item number 3.1 is our consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. And a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, me again. So I have a couple of questions. And this is under the public content, probably for Mr. McInerney. So the West Wendover Middle School. It appears to me when you read it that they're going ice skating. Is that correct?
They're going on, I believe that was an event that they had planned to celebrate academic success. So it was like so in essence.
It's called the Wolfpack Incentive.
Yeah, Wolfpack Incentive Group.
So it's just a field trip to go?
It is, yeah.
Struggling with what the educational value is, but this is more of a...
It was an incentive for students meeting educational goals throughout the course of the first semester.
Okay. And then there was another one that's a Waihi. Is it Boise?
There are other schools that do that, right, Chris?
All schools do that, yeah, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
Nassau Paw, Wells that goes to Nassau Paw at the end of the school year, things of that nature.
Love going there.
And again, this came up the last time, so maybe they're doing something else, but it says attend Boise State University basketball game.
That's part of their trip when they were there. As part of their tour of that campus and the event they're going to, they were invited to attend a basketball game as part of that campus visit. Again, very, very common, particularly when you have groups, the Gear Up groups and some other ones that are going to that. It's about experiencing college life to encourage them to go to school. So.
All right.
I wanted to go on that one, but they wouldn't let me.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and our consent agenda is approved. Item number 4.1 is a report from our NASB director. Mr. Weinstein.
Glenda, deputy, she's a board member from Humboldt County. Her email got hacked. If you get an email from her, don't open it.
Who is it?
Glenda, deputy. And there was a meeting last week. I didn't make it. Was able to go out and heard what the big agenda item was, redoing the NASB's
Logo or something?
no, not their logo. What are these names? The
Vision, guidelines.
They're the rules that they follow. And I haven't heard how that went. But the school trust lands, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I talked to Pete Gogachia, and there's a Public Land Commission meeting in Caliente, and tentatively me and Paul Johnson are going to give a presentation to the legislators that are there. Pete Gogachia talked to DeMar Dahl, and they might try to, because they're trying to get Amadeus right in some legislature so that the states get control of the public land, and they're going to try to put this in with it. So Amadeus aware of it, and so that kind of seems like something's moving on that. Real possibility to fund education in Nevada.
Is that the same committee?
having an opportunity to talk with Senator Gokachia. He seemed very optimistic that during that meeting down in Caliente, which is coming up
March 3rd.
March 3rd, that there could very well be a bill draft out of that particular committee meeting to place in front of the legislature.
Well, they're going to write a resolution because for AMDA to do anything, there needs to be a resolution come out of the legislature.
Yeah.
And that's what their focus is.
Is that the same committee and work that Lou Basanias was working on at one point in time too? Okay.
That's what I have.
Thank you. All right, item number 4.2 is items from board members.
The crowd left, and I was kind of counting on the crowd for this. The Spring Creek speech and debate team is looking for judges for
22nd, 23rd.
Thank you. No experience necessary, and but I forgot the gal's name that needs to be contacted. We have it in our email.
It's in the emails.
It's in the email. I'll find it. Or maybe I won't find it. It's gone. Sarah Thomas, the Spring Creek librarian. So if you're interested or know anybody that would be interested, contact me at my email, T. Dickinson, or contact Sarah Thomas.
And just as a note, it's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun. It is
I've
a
done
blast.
it several times. So if you have the opportunity and you're available, the 22nd or the 23rd, they kind of give you a window of time and you can sign up and just go listen to kids do poetry, debate, all kinds of humorous interpretation. It's my favorite. There's a lot of different things that they do. So if you have time in your schedule, any of those days, that'd be great. I will just say, and I kind of said this when everyone is here, but I've had a lot of opportunities to visit with different people in Spring Creek that I don't always get to hear from quite that many people all at once. And it's been good to, hear from a lot of people and their thoughts and opinions and have them feel like they're involved in, the educational process of their children. And from whatever avenue that is, the more involvement we have from parents, the better. So that's my item. Anyone else? No, item number 5.1 is our superintendent's report.
Okay, quickly, I have a construction update there for you from Mr. Kelly. I guess he's going to talk to you about that.
Casey, this is Sweden up here, so.
With that?
With that, also, we have some letters from the National Association of Ag Educators. They thanked us for allowing our ag teachers and advisors to go to their conference. And we have a rough draft of our coaches manual or activities manual for you to check out. It's not done. It's a rough draft, so we're still going through it. So we wanted you to have that kind of first go through along with us.
I just wanted to give you a heads up on next agenda. Went to the City of Elko CCAS meeting, which is when we get together with MDOT, the county, city, the utilities, NV Energy. Everybody gets together quarterly. We talk about what projects, what's going on in the City of Elko. And earlier, can we put this up on the board or?
The system's rebooting, Casey.
Oh, it's rebooting. Okay. Well, we talked about a parcel of land from the city has. It's 32 acres. There you go. Up on North 5th. I don't know if you can see my cursor here. It's this parcel right here. And we talked about looking at one of our sites for a possible location for the new Elko Elementary School. And just to give you a reference, this is Adobe and 5th Street up here. But I was told Friday that the VA has a lot of interest in this property to buy it from the city. They want to buy 15 acres of it right in the center of it. They want to put a cemetery there. So I was going to pull together all the information and bring it back to you guys next week to see if we still want to pursue that property. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that property. It's 32 acres. We could put an elementary school there. We could move central kitchen there. We could move the warehouse there if we want to expand south side. So it opens up a lot of opportunity because they also said there's 7 subdivisions, either in planning or in construction, that are all zoned to go to Mountain View. So
They actually came to a PTA meeting to tell us how
had that many subsections. And the PT, and they said every house that they sell, they're giving our school $100 because they know we're going to get inundated.
Tell them to up it.
But I was at that PT meeting. I'm just.
So I just want to plant the seed tonight. I'll bring a lot more information in the next board meeting.
Cemetery?
The cemetery.
Hey, do we have any small pieces to trade?
Well, they want to take the 15 acres right out of the center of the 32.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, if we had something small we couldn't build on, maybe they would be interested in exploring that. We could give that to them.
Yeah, that property out by the bus barn, there's some other property out there that we've looked at
Doesn't the
as
district
well.
own
Yeah.
like 80 acres further north?
Yes, right up here, there's a triangular section. That's like 80.2 acres or something like that. But the problem with that, there's utilities are decades away from probably getting up there. They're probably just a couple of years away.
You said
from
there was
getting
one next to Adobe, too?
That's the one.
That's what he's talking.
Yeah, that's the one.
No, like, right adjacent to
Directly
it?
adjacent?
Not up there, but like.
I think it's part of Adobe's property.
Yeah, part of Adobe's property where we looked at one time to possibly put a elementary school in the backside there, but it's a huge slope. There's a lot of
I
dirt
was gonna say,
work.
is this piece more flat and would
This
have the
is
same water
flat as a
issues you have
pancake.
at Adobe? Okay.
Yeah.
It's got that big power line, doesn't it, that runs right?
Power line that runs over, there's that substation
Yeah,
across the
substation
street.
is to the
Yeah.
north.
Yeah.
Just above it there.
And you've got a subdivision going in right across from Adobe.
Yep, one here.
And then Clover Hill's going in down there.
Right on Celtic Way, right across
Celtic Way
from
right
our
here.
house. Yeah.
So that's the land that we actually sold about a year ago. So.
At least it won't burn anymore.
Exactly.
But I mean, if we were to get that property and actually relocate the warehouse or something over there, it'd be much easier for those big trucks to come in Mountain City Highway up Jennings Way to that property than try to finagle its way through the residential area south side. So it just opens up a lot of options. So I just want to bring that up to you. We'll have a lot more information next meeting.
Thanks, Casey. Any questions from the board or? Thank you. Item number 6.1 is approval of the accounts payable.
I move to approve the accounts payable.
Second. I think we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, abstentions? I'll be abstaining for the same reason I always do. I have a family member whose employer is listed. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the accounts payable, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, and I am abstaining. Sounds like that passes. Item number 7.1 is final opportunity for public comment. Okay, we're moving on. No one jumped up. All right, you really want to make public comment, I won't stop. All right, item number 8.1 is adjournment of the meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're not taking opposing votes.
No.
We're adjourned.